Okay, welcome to our November 15th council meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have Marcus, who is on Zoom tonight. The remainder of the councillors are in the chambers with us this evening, and we have Pam and Peter with us as well. So with that, we'll move right to the second item, which is the closed meeting. And for the closed meeting, the proposed topics to be discussed are the unit rate quotes, labor relations, employee relations, and reading from the script. The meeting will be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following section of the charter. And where required, the council does consider that the matters could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And that is section 90.1. And that would be A, C, E, G, and I of that section, as well as J. It also includes section 90 in brackets. In brackets too, sorry.
Amount.
Okay.
We got 91N was also on there.
91N.
Yeah, and 92D is the sub.
Okay, I must be working from an older version. Okay.
They're hard to. It's something about the justification of the columns.
Maybe bold it. Or maybe bold it.
Okay, we've got J and N and 92A and D as well. Council anticipates reconvening the opening of the meeting to discuss the balance of the agenda, and we'll look to reopen at approximately 7 o'clock. Is that correct, Peter?
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll close the meeting. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've had our closed session reporting.
Turn the TV off, please.
Okay, we'll ask you to go on mute if you're in the audience or the gallery, especially online. That's better. Okay, reporting out of the closed session, I'd like to report the first item, the minutes of the previous council meetings were approved. Second, the minutes from November 4th meeting have been tabled pending changes and review for our next meeting. And third, more information, this on the Bayview Bridge project. There is more information required, needed. So we'll be arranging a meeting with the contractor in the next week to 2 weeks. So that's been tabled. And the report from the staff was received, and a portion of that will carry over into the closed session at the end of the evening. So
Just the engineer, not the contractor.
Sorry, we'll be meeting with the engineering group, not the contractor, just to discuss some of the information there that's needed by council to follow up on that. Okay, so we'll move to the open portion of the meeting. Let's see. Item number 4 on the agenda, the adoption of the agenda. Is there any changes or additions from our councillors this evening?
I didn't have any.
Neville, any changes, additions?
Where's Marcus?
Marcus is online right now.
Hmm.
He's not with us in the chambers, but he is online, I believe.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Okay. Neville, any?
What? No? Oh, you mean?
Okay, we're getting a little bit of feedback from the gallery. If you can mute your mic, that might help the situation.
If I could jump in here on item 4 of the agenda.
Okay.
I would just like to make a general point about agendas. While I'm sure we're all duly impressed with the prodigious agenda that we have in front of us tonight, as well as the substantial closed agenda, just a general point as to agendas. It seems to me that these are the structure, the architecture, and the framework of each meeting and sets the course of each meeting. And in as much as we are here to discharge our obligations to residents, it seems to me that the agendas and the construction of the agendas should be something that is within our command and control. Anything less would cede that important function to others, and I think that we need to be accountable for that. I would suggest to my colleagues that we spend perhaps a little time at the end of each meeting in which we discuss the things that we want to see in front of us in the next meeting. I'm open to suggestions here, but perhaps staff could then post haste prepare an agenda based on our direction as to what we want to be discussing in upcoming meetings with, of course, whatever addition staff wishes to make, and then submit that to us for some review and comment. And I'd like to see, in general, agendas available to us and the public in a much more timely fashion. I'd like to see them out a week ahead of time so that we can all study the agendas, become conversant with them. And I think this would also serve to allow the public to study this and become familiar with it and show up and participate in our body politic. So I pass that over to my colleagues as a general point.
Okay, why don't we add this to the agenda then? And Norm, we'll go over to you if you have some comments on the agenda.
No, I'm comfortable with the agenda. I'm happy to adopt. If we want to add, where would we add? I guess under council.
New business maybe at the end.
Okay.
We're going to add Marcus's suggested as a discussion point.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Marcus, I think what we're going to do, rather than discuss it right now, we'll discuss that at the end. But I do think it's a very valid point, and I had that on my little checklist as well. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. We'll add that to the agenda.
Number 14 is new. Okay, agenda.
My only question on the agenda, it looks fairly full. Is there anything here that at this point we might want to consider tabling, or when we get to it, receive it rather than a fulsome discussion? And a few things that come to mind. I mean, I think the connector project, for example, we just put this out there what it is. Maybe we get some public feedback first. Then we just table that for now. That was one of my thoughts. And the Bayview Municipal Bridge, now that we know that we can't complete that discussion, does it make sense to discuss a recommendation in the open that we can't actually execute on?
Right.
So should we just take that as received?
Look, if you want, go ahead.
I think we're sort of talking about at this point. I'm wondering if, as we come to these items, if we feel that we can just table them, receive them, whatever, that we just do that at that time,
Okay.
rather than talk about whether we're not going to,
Yeah, my only suggestion would have been to table them right now. Just list those off if people are for that. But I agree with you that we can table.
we're going
at
to
the
talk
point.
about.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't, when we get to that point, we'll go right to a motion to table those. I've made a note of that, Neville.
Okay.
So I think that's valid.
Let's get to them.
I had that on my agenda was to table those, so.
So perhaps when we get to them though, there might be a point or two that can be made before you table them.
Yeah, sure. they
That
can.
might be
Yeah.
useful in terms of.
Okay, in regards to this agenda, is there anything else that we would like to add? Nothing at this time? Okay. We'll adopt the agenda as it stands. And we'll go to the public participation, 2 minutes. And I think the last meeting, we said that was a very soft 2 minutes. We'll allow people to have their say. We may end up asking you to summarize if you're carrying on and repeating, but other than that, you're welcome to have your say now. So thank you very much. Peter, can you open it up online?
Looks like Gregory has his hand up.
It's like.
Ask the board next door.
Has his hand up.
Good evening.
Hello,
Hello.
go ahead, Dr. Banta.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to ask if agenda items 5 and 6 can be reversed in order. The public is unaware of what the topic is for 6, and it would only make sense to have the public participation after the public delegation request is completed. I also echo Councillor Reuter's point about the fact that the agenda items need to be more transparent and available a week in advance.
Okay, I'll just comment. I had for number 6, 10-minute maximum that we didn't have anyone. Do we have someone?
I think his suggestion is that as a general course, it would be better to have, if there is a delegation, have them present first. And then have
all
the
right.
public participation in case
Yeah,
somebody
okay.
wants to say
All
something
right.
about.
Well, they could say that at the end. We can
Yeah.
address it at the end.
Okay, thank you very much for that. If there's anything further, why don't we discuss that at the time that we look at the agenda, and we can work on that. Anything further, Mr. Banta? No? Okay, Peter.
No, thank you.
Thank you for the comments.
Mr. Shore? Got his hand up?
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling with regards to the minutes from that are in this package regarding the previous meeting that we had. On page 13, there's a description of the 2-minute presentation I provided, and it just doesn't come close to capturing the thrust of the presentation that I made. It's not about what we could have done at a lower cost than proposed, as the minutes suggest. I spent close to 10 minutes talking about how that project became a $1 million project when it started as a $100,000 renovation project. I noticed that on page 175, you can actually see a fairly good summary of that in the Have Your Say article about the beach park. So I just want it to be clear that my intent was to talk about the size of the project and how it became a $1 million project, and not what was posted in the minutes. Further, on page 19 of the minutes at this agenda, there's a reference to a question that I'm now asking for the 4th time because it hasn't been answered. There's a reference on page 19 of these minutes to a request on September 20th that was made, that was repeated on October 4th, and it was actually preceded in August.
Susan?
Excuse me,
Maybe Butler?
David, if you can just hold for one moment. Someone on the online here is not muted or
Susan.
speaker. Susan,
Public cover.
public cover, if you can.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Okay. All right, David, Mr. Shore, can you please continue?
Yeah, I'll just finish up by saying I repeat again that I'd like to see a report regarding the hiring and the choice of the project manager. It's in the minutes several times over. I don't need to repeat myself a 4th time. At the October 4th meeting, Councillor Abbott specifically asked the CAO if he was going to respond. He said he would, and I'm still waiting. I'm not going to let this go away. I need to know about this report, and I'm going to have many questions about it. Anything you say to me individually, I'm going to assume that I can make public, and that's what I intend to do. So I'm obviously a little agitated at this point. I don't feel it should take 4 requests to get answers to this question. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Mr. Short, for that. Peter, can we give him some assurance that we will get back to him?
Yeah, I had intended to have something for this meeting, but I just haven't had time. It's been too many things to get done.
Is there something-
Not enough people to do it, so.
Something in the interim you could verbalize to him?
No, I
No?
no, I need to look at what he wants.
Okay. So David, Peter is committed to getting you something here, and any time frame on that, Peter?
Within the next couple of weeks, I'll try and have it for him.
Okay, within the next couple of weeks, Mr. Shore.
Thanks very much.
All right. Next question or comment?
Oh.
Peter, anything on your screen?
No.
I don't see anybody's hand up. Just let Mr. Pollock in the room. Perhaps you might want to ask him if he's got something that he wants to say. I don't know. He was there at 6 o'clock as well, so.
All right.
He's still connected.
Doug Pollock, anything you'd like to add? No, okay, we'll move to item number 7. Okay, review and approval of the minutes of the prior meetings. We've got the September 16th, September 26th, October 4th. So we covered those off, did we?
No, these are open.
No. No, that we covered off the closed
Not a
portion.
closed one,
Right.
sorry, yeah,
Okay. Can I speak to that?
yeah.
Okay, my concern is as I think I've raised previously, and that is that it's very difficult to approve a meeting that I've not attended. So I would be comfortable receiving those minutes, but not approving them as such. The two of my colleagues here were at those meetings. I don't know if they want to speak to that or where we're at.
I'm good with both those sets of minutes.
You agree with them?
Yeah, I'm happy with the minutes. These are also publicly recorded meetings.
These
So the folks can review the entire meeting if they want.
You listen to.
Yeah, you can listen to it. So,
Yeah.
all there.
I mean, I'm not arguing with the minutes. I'm just saying I wasn't there, so it doesn't seem.
Okay, Marcus, any comments?
Well, perhaps we should rely on Neville and Norm, who were there, as we did just in the previous closed, and get this bit of housekeeping out of the way. I'd be good with that.
Okay, I wasn't there. I'm not sure what the regulations, and I think this was discussed in closed, and I did not approve the motion at that time. So
So what,
I don't know where.
Yeah,
call for approval of those three, I guess.
we call for approval of call the
Okay.
question then for the approval of those 3
I'll call a
minutes.
question that we have a motion on it.
I'll move.
Okay, second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Those
Opposed?
opposed?
okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to item number D, the inaugural council meeting minutes, November 1st. Any discussion?
Not for me.
I'm opposed.
Okay, I'm good with November the 1st.
Okay, Marcus, how are you with November
Yep. All good.
1st? Okay, Neville,
I'm good at it, yeah.
good, Norm?
Yep.
Good. Okay,
Okay.
motion.
I'll
Neville,
put it forward.
second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Item E, special council meeting. Okay, any comments on item E?
For which,
That's the
November 4th?
The special meeting held on the 4th.
oh, yeah, okay.
Marcus, any comments?
No, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Norm?
November.
I'm good. I just was curious if the correspondence would come, that's brought to this meeting, all the correspondence we received. for the 4th. We brought that into today's meeting.
The on table?
Yeah.
The on table correspondence?
Sorry, Peter.
Some of it, I don't know that I can confirm all of it, is that I do recognize some of it.
Just want to make sure we got it captured. That's all.
This doesn't have the correspondence. Came on tape.
Yeah. Or do we need it there or do we just capture it in today's?
It should be here because then I think it should be subsequently as an additional item on the website for on table items for that meeting. So yeah, sorry about that. So if we can add basically all in the connector project, maybe just after that item, can add item course for correspondence and that the applicable on table correspondence or on table correspondence was received with respect to the connector project. Or sorry, not the connector, the
Lions Bay
Lions Bay Beach Park,
yeah, sorry. Is that
Okay,
satisfactory?
I can look at that, yeah.
Sorry, where are we referring to?
So just before we went back into closed on the 4th. So after the discussion regarding the Lions Bay Beach Park revitalization project. And then the connector project, and there was a public participation.
Right,
Perhaps right after the public participation before we went back into closed,
okay,
add on table correspondence.
okay.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, could I add also under item D, the Lions Bay Connector project, it was moved and seconded and ultimately it was carried, I believe. So it was, there's no mention that it was passed.
Yeah, sorry, you're right, missing the word carried.
Yeah, so the Lions Bay, section D, Lions Bay Connector, you get down, there's no carry. Okay, yeah. Simple, but probably significant.
okay, with those amendments, are we fine? We have a motion from Norm.
Yep.
Second,
Yeah.
Michael, all in favor?
Nice.
Carried.
Perfect.
Okay, any further business arising from the minutes? Item number 8. Okay. Item number 9, unfinished business, follow-up actions on the previous meetings. And that's from July 5th, 2022, July 5th. There's 2 items under July 5th and October 4th.
The first item is coming to this meeting.
Sorry.
The CFO's report is in the agenda already.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
255, so I'm still working with the committee on wrapping up that report. So I'm hoping, I know, it's a long report.
If reports come,
Okay.
climate action,
okay, first,
So we've got further items to come at the next meeting. Is the reports?
Just 253 and I guess 255.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have it done for the next meeting. I mean, really, we just need to hand it over to the next climate action committee. So when that gets set up.
right, okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, item B, information and resource requests. Peter, anything you want to add?
So this is the list of requested information and documents, and not all information is within a document, so sometimes the document has to be created. So what we've done is set it all spreadsheet, and this is a spreadsheet that's been used in the past, because the The idea being that sometimes requests can be simple and quick and easy to do, and other times they require staff resources and prioritization of work that we're doing. So it's a question of council acting as a body to direct staff as to whether time is spent and how much, and ask questions about what's required and explore that, and then determine how it's to be dealt with. That's the idea here. And so, yeah, instead of me going through each thing, I'm sure you had some time.
Why don't we
Just
take
have some
that?
time to review it, yeah.
Why don't we? Yeah, we can review that. Is there anything, I guess, I mean, this request was information dating back to November 20th. Is there anything that you would like to maybe do differently, or that we could do differently as a team to assist some of the new counselors, myself especially, in getting up to speed on information like this? Because most of this information, I would have loved to have had it back, anywhere close to November 20th. October 20th, as opposed to Thursday night before a long weekend. It just, for me, I think the open transparency is something that I know the voters and the village would like to see more of. So is there any way that we can improve on that?
Yeah, I mean, basically the idea is that, as I just said, there's, it's not any one council member that directs staff in terms of their work and what to do. It is council as a whole that makes requests or approves requests, and so that's why it's brought. You act by resolution or bylaw, and so for each of these things, you should actually be. So I guess really we should be going through each thing. Some of these are noted as completed or halfway on the way to being completed. I think there might be a couple of things that need to go to a closed meeting, if I remember correctly. I didn't have it highlighted, but
All right.
for instance, bank accounts and so forth. Excuse me.
And sort of seeing.
Okay. Sorry, we'll let Norm go and then we'll come back to you, Michael. Sure.
Yeah,
Norm,
just to create some structure around the ask, would it make sense to just prioritize these and rank them? What do we want to see first and try and just hammer this list down?
I can rework that. I've reworked it. You probably see the letters posted with the public there. So there was about 4 different requests.
Right.
And during the requests, I think, I don't want to go through the rebuttal on those right now. I think I did respond each time, and that's why it's summarized in this letter. So I was looking for information so that I could get up to speed and be able to be well versed coming into the mayor position. What I was met with was not a lot of cooperation. So I think we can discuss that maybe off camera, but Michael, we'll go around the room if you've got something you'd like to add.
I'll defer right now, but I'll come back in a second. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Norm.
Yeah, no, I'm just suggesting if it's all very valid information to share or to have access to. So I was suggesting if we could rank it, that way we can start, delivering on, staff can start delivering on some of these in a sort of organized way. And that way you can have it.
I would love to have it in printed format and just that they can deliver it whenever available. And,
that's great.
majority of those items, the sooner the better. Marcus, anything from you?
Yes, there is one item in there that I'd like to address. I think, though, given the nature of the material and the possible responses, that it would be wiser to do that when we resume our closed. So I'd like to defer it until that moment.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Neville, anything?
There's a few listed that are easy to do, like collective agreements. I guess those can be done fairly easily, or you can actually find them yourselves, by the way, if you just go online. I could send you the copy, I don't know. but I don't know if it's the latest one. Someone, so I think
I guess a couple.
some of the easier ones I think would probably be, and the ones you mentioned as like the collective agreements that can be provided immediately. Maybe helps to shorten the list a bit.
Yeah, so if you're good on as we can get these things put together and provided, and no particular priority order, then you could just pass a blanket resolution that we chip away at this and provide you with the information. I mean, some of these things are already provided, as noted as completed. Some of the things we can do quickly. Some things are probably going to take a bit of work. So
I guess I'll just cut this. So what you're asking for is you're saying that as mayor, you're not willing to provide me with anything unless I get a resolution. I know I did show up at the office last week and was met by Pam, who notified me that unless I had a resolution, I wasn't getting anything. So is that?
Excuse me, that's not what I said. We had a council resolution at the special meeting that we would bring it to this meeting. You showed up on Monday asking for the package, and I just said per the resolution, we would have it ready for this meeting. There was a resolution passed at this special meeting that we would bring it to this meeting. So we were a bit taken aback. I was when you showed up on Monday asking.
No, I was asking for the package that I had requested from Peter, actually. And I had sent a memorandum to Peter. So perhaps we got confused on that. But Peter, so you're asking me to write another letter or
Why don't we just pass a resolution now that council, if council agree, the council would like this list actioned. And we'd like to see progress at each meeting. And then if you
okay
progress,
do we have,
then we can.
do we have a second, or do you
Well,
want to comment
no,
first, Michael?
Okay, well, if there's a motion on the floor, go ahead with the.
Okay,
I
a
misunderstood
second.
the motion. I'll speak to the motion.
Okay, so the motion I'm suggesting is that council direct staff to action this list as requested, and we'd like to see progress at each meeting until it's complete.
or how about just
Okay, a second on that, and why don't we have a discussion on that as well, since we're on this?
Okay, I have some pretty significant concerns about it's fairly soft and there's no timelines involved in that. So I think it's probably reasonable to have some kind of timelines. I'm having some difficulty with the fact that the mayor requested information and which would be provided to all council members in order for us to get up to speed on some fairly significant spending that we're being asked to approve and projects that we're being asked to move forward with. And the first time I saw anything on the Lions Bay connector was 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, and clearly that existed prior to that time. The information regarding the Lions Bay Beach Park, there was some additional information provided at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and there was also huge amount of discussion around $130,000 approval for some bridge work, which we'll talk about later in this meeting, presumably. So it just seems to me that it was a very reasonable request particularly for the information that's critical to our decision making over the next month or so, that information be provided in a timely way. So and to say that we have to wait for a council meeting to have a motion to empower the mayor to ask for the information that we need seems to me a bit challenging and in fact ludicrous. So I just hope that going forward that we can maybe look at if there's some difficulties in the in the bylaws that are causing this issue, that we will review those. But I think ultimately the council needs to receive information in a timely way in order to make respectful and considered decisions for the village of Lions Bay.
Okay, I'll comment, just as this was my request. It was very frustrating, to say the least. Coming in, voted in as mayor for, with the support of people asking for more transparency, more forthright, direct dealings, and I requested information which is posted on page 34 of the agenda. So I'd encourage all the gallery to go on there and take a look at that letter, which has been posted. And you'll notice that there's about 4 requests on that. So what you're not seeing here is you're not seeing many requests and a lot of effort to get information which I felt I needed to be able to make decisions and be able to participate in this community. And Michael brought up a point, and we've discussed it tonight and is on the agenda. The Bayview Bridge, which has gone from about 50,000 to about 440,000. Or sorry, not 50, it's 200,000 to about 440.
300.
And I was simply asking for, as part of this request, for the various agreements so that we could get up to speed on information and intelligently debate topics. So yes, I would appreciate as a council that we look at the policies, procedures, and bylaws. Perhaps we even strike a committee on this so that we can look and review these, so that we can be a little bit more forthright and forthcoming. It seems to be that we've got things gridlocked here, and I just don't think that's the way that the residents are expecting us to operate. And it's certainly not what I was expecting when I came into this role.
So if I may, much of the information you requested is on this document. It's there, and you just have to go through it, and there's all kinds of things, and these are reiterations of information that I responded to you on to begin with, so it's not new. There's nothing on here regarding the connector and the other project, the Bayview Bridge project, or anything like that. General questions about, in general, charter, policies, bylaws. The community charter, section 122, I think it is, says you act as a team, as a council. That's how you act. And so no one, like if Norm calls me up and says, Peter, I want you to do this, that, and the other thing, and find me this and find me that. It's just like, well, sorry, Norm, but I'm working on all these other things. I'm working on council strategic initiative regarding whatever. And I don't know when I'll find the time to do that. Oh, but I really need this, Peter. This would really, really help me. Well, he doesn't direct me. Council as a whole, if he wants me to drop everything and address his request, then he's got to ask all of you to say, hey, this is really important. I really need this. Can we
cut the debates and can council just start directing? This is do a resolution on the table. We want this in action.
So some things
okay,
simply fall out of community charter stuff, something.
All right, okay. I think we debated this long enough.
Say complying with it.
We've debated this long enough.
I
Look, as a mayor, if we do look at the statutes, mayor is considered CEO, okay? And I am also elected by the villagers. So I would expect a little bit of teamwork so that we can get information to make proper debate and decisions as a council. Okay, that's all we're asking. We have a letter here which has been posted in the agenda, which was not reviewed by the council or the mayor ahead of time, which again is something I think striking a task force to review policies, procedures, and bylaws will perhaps help us out on this. Because the goal here is to work better as a team, because as a village, I think we can do better. So this letter, I think we have a commitment by Peter to start to deliver these items. So that's fabulous. Do we have a motion on that? We asked for a motion.
We do.
Started
We didn't vote.
Second, and do we have a date that we can get these deliverables by? I asked originally on October 20th. I asked another 3 or 4 times. Can you give me any date, Peter? How about
some things,
December 15th?
Some things would be.
How about December 15th? But that sounds a little bit out there even. I mean, it's almost a ridiculous request to hear. Because we need to review these agreements on the Bayview, on the connector, on the beach. So we need to have.
Ask for specific.
I've asked.
No, you need to ask for general.
Okay.
things, you know, like.
All right, I'm gonna put a date on
I'm
it.
having to.
I'm gonna put a date on this. It's the 15th right now, December 1st. Okay? Do we have a motion for December 1st? Are we fine with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, motion second.
So your motion
By
includes the date of December the 1st?
So we have a town hall plan for December 1st.
That's right.
We do.
So that I thought was a priority. That.
We haven't got to that discussion yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Could I suggest that we do make it, that best efforts be made and we say December the 15th, because that will ensure that all the information is available for the December 20th meeting.
Okay.
So what I had down
Alright.
from Neville's original motion was the staff action, the IRR, this list. At the earliest opportunity and follow up at each meeting if you want to put check in.
Let's put let's put Michael's December 15th. Okay, and that allows us then to make some decisions perhaps on the later council meeting.
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Regarding
For the next item.
Next item is the the reports. So staffing reports, CAO.
So this first one regarding the renewal of Crown lease for North Brunswick Beach. We had a lease there for 30 or so years, which expired. And this is a renewal that we applied for a while back, and it's taken a while. Originally, they came to us with the wrong form of lease inadvertently, which would have had us paying. And so that was sent back, and this one has it for $1 for the next 30 years. It's basically, the idea is to secure our position with respect to lands which lie at the basically on the foreshore, in front of the Esplanade, in front of 63 Brunswick, which is a piece of land that we bought when we sold 52 Brunswick at the end of Crystal Falls Road. We did the road closure bylaw and sold that piece of property. So it's shown on page 63 of the agenda, 63 of 314. And that's just sort of where Magnesia Creek empties out into the ocean. And there's a strip of land there that it's probably best for us to, secure our position long term. There may be something we want to do with that land at some point in time. It was secured. One of the reasons was the potential for a desalination plant at some point in the future, if so required. Anything that has to do with enhancing our position and our interests would be advisable at this time. So that's basically what it comes
Could I
to.
move that we proceed with that with one comment? That the date on that you've given is December the 31st, and the actual date on the contract is December the 20th is the deadline. So just a heads up that if we applied after December 20th, the offer may have expired. So but other than that, I would support that motion.
Okay. Any other comments from the councils?
Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Marcus, any comments?
Nope, good to go.
Just one question is there's no private land on fronting that lease?
No, it's our land. There's a fee simple lot.
Okay, so none of the residents, so no, okay. I'm fine with that. We have a motion.
Yeah.
Second, all in favor? Aye, motion carried.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, CFO report. Over to you, Pam.
Yes, so this is a comparison. I was asked to do some municipal financial comparisons. So I looked at quite a few of the surrounding municipalities. But the one that seemed to be the most comparable was Anmore. So I did do a comparison. I think sort of the main point I realized after I did this, I had some in-depth conversations with the CAO, the former CAO at Anmore, spent a lot of time analyzing financial statements, reading the annual reports, is it's very hard to compare municipalities. Even I was surprised. For every question I asked, I think of another 5 questions. Even when I was writing this report, there were quite a few more questions. I think it was a worthwhile exercise because, like I say, we are often compared to Anmore. I think probably the best thing is just to go to the schedules that I ended up doing. A reconciliation of the labor costs. There is about a 540,000 difference in the 2021 labor costs, and this is for the segmented note on the financial statements. So after, like I say, a couple of hours of conversation with the CAO and drilling down, a big difference is the fire department. Anmore and Belcarra's fire services are provided through Metro Vancouver, through the Sasamat Volunteer Fire Department. So they're charged for that through their levy. So there's no cost on the financial statements. So I said our labor is $145,000. So what I'm saying is in this reconciliation, we have $145,000 of fire labor and Anmore has none. I went through their 2022 chart of accounts with the CAO. They have a part-time manager of development services, and they do consider that an employee. It's on their organizational chart, but they actually pay a consultant to do that work. So again, the wage number is not in their labor. It's on their supplier cost on the SOFI. They had a financial consultant full-time up until 2021. And then in 2021, in August, they hired a manager of financial services, which is a position on their org chart. So for half of the year, they continued to pay the consultant. So again, that was a cost that was in another line on their financial statements. They had a communications consultant that they use annually. And in 2022, they actually hired a communication and events coordinator. So just based on an estimate from their SOFI report, they paid their communication consultant about $50,000. The biggest difference, of course, is the water and the sewer. They buy their sewer fully treated from Metro, and we treat their, what did I say? Their sewer? I apologize. They buy their sewer? No, they buy their water. They technically buy it from Port Moody, who gets it from Metro. And it was hard to compare, but they have a full-time water utility operator. So I took their wage, I prorated it to a 40-hour work week, and then I just took the difference between what we spend on water and what waste they spend, and it's about $250,000. And that's reflected in the FTEs as well. We just
Could I move that this be accepted or received, I should say? And just ask a question. Who the staff were requested to prepare for financial comparison? Who requested the staff?
It was actually a meeting I missed. I think it was a member of the public, and then it became part of the unfinished business.
I'm just unclear of how that direction occurred. Was that by motion?
It was by motion by council.
By motion by council.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's what I want to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the report?
Are you done?
Well, it sounds like I am, but I'm fine. We can move on.
What do we suggest?
I think we're just taking this as received, so there's no motion.
Further discussion?
No further discussion unless you.
Unless you have some questions?
Question, sure. Well,
We'll discuss
for
it.
council, and I think it should be received.
How many consultants they hire. For things that we've talked about, development services, communications consulting, finance consultants. Nice to have money. They obviously have money in the bank to afford to do those things.
We have a lot of community amenity contributions.
Yeah.
About $1.5 million worth of revenue from that.
So,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
you want to receive and bring it back and discuss it at another time, I'm fine. But I think there's a lot of things in here that beg some discussion. Some of it, like questioning, are we missing a trick on the fire department? Is there something to be investigated there? Is that an option we could have considered or not? There are some things in your report, Pam, that I don't necessarily agree with the apples to apple comparison. Maybe I could touch a few of those now. But I think tonight's going to be a long night, so I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time talking about this.
Could we bring it back?
That's what I'm suggesting, if you want to bring it back. But in the meantime, I just wanted to mention two things. When you bring it back, then maybe you consider. So the first one is the $150,000 work differential. If we have less people working longer, those are hours worked that needed to be earned. If they have more people working shorter periods, it's still about the hours you worked. So I don't think that factors into it at all. Right? If we went down to a 35-hour week, you'd be suggesting you need another person. So that should come out of there. That's not, that doesn't make an apple comparison.
Yeah, but when I would disagree, because they don't clearly need another person. They work a 35-hour week and they get the work done. If we went for a 40-hour week to a 35, we would definitely need another person.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's a differential.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
No, they do it for less. They got,
No, they just
if they have the same number of people or they do less,
Yeah.
fine.
at 35.
Maybe they do less, but they do have less people working on that function.
They do, and I've explained why. It's because of the water.
Okay, so the water is the one I just want to touch on. I think we need to go a little deeper on the water, and here's why. They buy their water from Metro, treated. I went on their website and looked at the last water report. They have 20 kilometers of pipelines that they maintain. They have 2 lift stations. They have 8 PRVs. So other than the supply of water, we don't even have lift stations. Other than the supply of water, they do the same function as us. So the only differential is the treatment plant.
The 2 treatment plants.
The 2 treatment plants. Is that $256,000 of labor is not just our 2 treatment plants. It's all our water function. And we'll do all of those other than the treatment plant. So, maybe it's just one treatment operator that should be different. I don't think that explains a difference of going from 6 public work staff to 3. Which is double. So I think we need to dig a little deeper into that one if we're going to bring this back.
I guess that's my question, is to what purpose? I spent a lot of time on this, and we've done the comparison. I'm not saying that we stand alone, but I think, they're all intriguing questions, but is there value to it? And I think any question we have about water would be, win-win, nice, that public works manager.
Okay, we need one.
And,
so I think
there can be purpose to doing the water, but I think the overall comparison, you really weren't even interested in me talking about it, which I'm not insulted by at all, but I just don't really.
That wasn't my intent, I'm sorry.
So,
but
I think the intent, if I go back when this came to council, where it comes from, I think the intent was to find some way to kind of validate, are we right size?
Yeah.
Is there another way? Are other people doing something different than we missing a trick? Is it better to have consultants than staff? And it was to create that discussion and try and look at how we operate and do other people do it differently. And that was the intent of it. I still think it's a very valuable kind of discussion.
But I find it very challenging. I think that was the thing. I could have talked to Julie, who's now unfortunately left, for a long time. And it might be finding another avenue to do it in terms of the discussion and learning what the comparisons are, because.
So why don't we receive it as we suggested? Now I have a few other thoughts. Receive it as we suggested. Let it come back at another time and other people have more time to consider it. Really, I've been thinking about this longer myself, longer than others, because it's been kicking around for a while. But I do think we should ask Nye dig a little deeper on that workshop part.
The water, I agree. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, before we receive it, Marcus, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree that if we can dig a little deeper when we do reconsider this to see if there are any efficiencies that can be gained, the study is helpful there. But if we have Nye present, that hopefully we're trying to improve our situation here. So that would be the intent. So I'd welcome taking a deeper look at that when we do bring it back.
Yeah. Okay, Michael.
Okay. Sorry, my intent was not to diminish what you're saying here. I think it's completely, it's creating the discussion is really important. But I was just, and in fact, there's been a couple of things that have come up that have been very, very useful. And I'd like to know a little bit more about what you said when you're saying missing a trickle in the fire department. I'd like to know more about what's triggering that comment. So I think, what we found is that comparing our community to any other community is very challenging. You have to make all the, you have to make all the adjustments. And so, but, you know, it's a really useful conversation to have. So.
Okay, and I'll just add, I think fabulous, you know, that you dove into that, Pam, and Neville, I wouldn't have expected, you know, the PVRs and the maintenance of the water lines. These are all great topics and worth looking at, in the fire department as well. When I originally jumped into this comparison on a personal level, I picked up the phone, I had a 5-minute conversation with the mayor. And one of the takeaway from that was we leaned on our volunteers. And I use that in my campaign. And so that's why I'm adamant that, you know, I'm excited about our opportunities for committees and perhaps coming up with ideas and exploring different areas. So I've also got a conversation with the mayor of Anmore tomorrow. So I'll ask him, you know, once again for some feedback. But this evening, I think you've made a great motion there. Why don't we table this and review it and look at it in further depth and talk about it more. So do we have a second for that?
Just to clarify, we're not tabling, we're just receiving for tonight.
Receiving tonight,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can second that.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
So one further request panel I just thought of, could we also get the just the high level staff salaries out of the SOF report announced?
Yeah, there's, yeah, I can do that.
Thanks.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, carried. Okay, request for decision, coordinator, okay, CFO. Pam, would you like to?
Okay, do you want me to read the
Background on that?
recommendation? The recommendation is that the proposed hiring freeze be defined as applying to new positions not previously existing within the municipality's labor model, and that the currently vacant permanent full-time municipal coordinator position be filled as soon as possible, and that the current vacant fire chief position be filled as soon as possible, and that any other vacancies which occur with respect to existing positions within the municipal organization be filled as soon as possible. I think we had talked about this sort of in depth at the last meeting, that when this was discussed during the election, we did not anticipate having vacancies in key positions. So there was a hiring freeze, which I think most people would interpret it as no new hires, but now we're missing a critical position. So the report just outlines, you know, how critical this position is, that it's a role that all municipalities have. And with us, it's really a department of one. As you can see from Anmore, they actually have 1.6 FTEs in that position. So we're essentially in a way eliminating a department, but even if you blend it with the other admin staff, it's a 38% reduction in staff with no offsetting reduction in work. So we would just ask council that we would be allowed to continue to post for that position and get it filled.
Okay, why don't we have a little discussion on this? Anyone want to jump forward? Michael, go ahead.
Okay, I understand the concern and it all kind of fits together with some of the other discussions this evening. And that is that we want to be as informed as we possibly can in order to make the best possible decisions we can. And right now we're looking, I believe council would like to look very seriously at all aspects of budget. And so at this point, a staffing freeze I would encourage to remain. But I think we talked about it. It was initially 6 months. I think it was discussing it as 3 months, or am I confusing something else?
I think we started out with a request for 6 and it went to 3.
Right.
Is that-
And I believe it's up to 3.
Up to 3. So
Up to 3. So I think as soon as we can really get a handle on budget, finances, and so on, so right now we're trying to keep as many things as possible dynamic, I guess. So I'd encourage
The budget isn't coming until probably February, March.
I'm sorry?
The budget doesn't come until probably February, March, with adoption May 15th.
Right.
Okay, I think we have we passed the resolution on that, and it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was up to 3 months, and it was in special circumstances. We could review this. I'll just comment to follow up on yours. I'm still looking for more information. I'd like to see more information. I'm not comfortable this evening changing that previous resolution. And that's just my feeling. But I'll go to the other councillors. Neville?
Well, one question, suggestion before we comment on what you're saying there. Does it make sense to separate the two roles? Are we talking about the municipal coordinator position here that's your concern? Or is replacing the fire chief also a concern?
I don't have a concern. I'm happy with the previous resolution, which is a freeze for up to 3 months. We review it, in a situation like the fire chief. If we have Barrett is standing in right now, I think we get our committees together. We invite Andrew onto that committee, and we get some feedback so that at least I can have some knowledge. Again, I haven't even seen a contract or background on this various information. So my position hasn't changed, but I'd like to hear from the other councillors.
Yeah, could I just jump in here? Do we actually have a vacancy as to the fire chief? I mean, I understand that Andrew's stepped aside or is stepping aside and that we have a replacement. And I think when we discussed this last time, as to the last part in point 3, that if any other vacancies occur, that we would, if necessary, respond to those on an ad hoc basis. So I'm guessing what we're essentially discussing the municipal coordinator position at this time, are we not?
Well, I would say that the position of Barrett is that, he's trying to determine if he wants to take on the role of fire chief, and we're talking about what that looks like in the job description and discussing it. But if council is not prepared to go ahead and appoint a fire chief, then I'll let them know.
I don't think that's what any of us are saying. I mean, speaking for myself, we obviously need a fire chief, and those negotiations will continue. But I'm suggesting that in that case and in any other cases which are mentioned here, that we would respond accordingly. And I'm guessing that we're primarily speaking about the municipal coordinator position at this very moment, are we not?
That's first and foremost in the minds of myself and the CFO for sure. And, our position is that if we don't have someone filling that vacancy, then it's going to be very, very difficult to get all of the things done that are coming down the pike very quickly. We've got a lot of work on our plates coming up and getting ready for strategic planning and upcoming council meetings, projects, you name it. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to roll out with all the information necessary in order to do what needs to be done. And you talk about wanting to have the information necessary to make good decisions. Well, I can't do everything. And the rest of the staff have their own roles to play, so they can't fill this position. So I don't know who you expect to provide you with all this information to get all these things done, to coordinate calendars, agendas, minutes, so forth. I guess it'll be an interesting experiment. We'll see what happens.
Well, just my final word on this would be that I would agree that we're trying to come to grips with budgets and various other pieces of information. And I guess we would ask staff to bear with us until we have those. And I think the freeze that we had decided on was up to 90 days, and we can revisit these things as necessary and as information comes in.
And that's why we brought it to this meeting, was because, all right, it was up to, and we're bringing it now with telling you how.
All right, do we have a second, or was that a motion?
No, hold on.
Don't know if you've gone around the table yet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think using the word experiments, Councilor Reuter is an interesting term, because I feel like that's exactly what we're proposing to do here is an experiment with public office, and I find that to be,
I think it was Peter that used the term.
no, actually it was Marcus.
No, it's Peter.
That was Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, not me. No.
Fine, I thought it was, regardless, the word experiment kind of triggered me because I feel like that's exactly what we're doing. I don't think it's the residents cross to bear our misunderstanding or perhaps ignorance around the organization and organizational finances. That's really, that risk shouldn't be farmed out to the community. I think we can learn about the cost of our operations and the roles and responsibilities of individuals while not conducting an experiment about what might happen, leaving staff shorthanded. I think setting objectives for staff in terms of cost cutting measures over the long term would be a more sensible way to look at cost reductions, to set goals for staff. So I'm not in support of leaving staff shorthanded. I think the recommendation coming from staff sounds responsible and reasonable. And I think we should get on top of this as quickly as possible. So when we talk about we need to learn or we need to get information, what does that look like? Have we set a timeline for ourselves? You know, we're sort of doing a bit of a chicken and egg. When a lot of this information is.
I guess a lot of it looks like that letter that has been requested 4 times, and everyone can go online and look at that. But, you know, can you summarize maybe anything?
Yeah, so my summary.
I mean, ignorance is,
we should,
you know,
we should be supporting staff, and if their recommendation is to hire for support, that's I think that's the recommendation that I would support.
Okay, Michael, you had your hand
Okay,
up.
I have some difficulty with picking up on the term experiment. The CAO has coined the term experiment. It's not an experiment. It's a judgment made on behalf of 5 elected officials. Okay, we're judging at this point
You don't.
what we would like to do at this point in time.
It's not for me to address.
Yeah.
Actually, we're debating with each other, so I think that's
Okay,
fair.
so that's
if he's
fine.
looking
Okay,
at
so
other
anyway, so
councils.
it's anyway, I'm not accepting it as an experiment. So just to be clear.
Okay, I'll just add that, look, information has been next to impossible to get. And, you know, ignorance, you know, ignorance is there when you can't get information. And when I hear counselors in the past tell me, you know what, the next 4 years is just going to be a gridlock and go around in circles and we're not going to get anything done. I don't buy into that. Okay. I think we owe the public, we owe the villagers more. And we need to find a way to get things done, work as a team. But in order to do that, we have to work in conjunction with our staff. And the staff needs to provide information so that we can make decisions and have proper debate. So is there anything else anyone would like to add before we make a decision on this?
I'll just say that it's a position.
Sorry,
Always existed.
Sorry,
Sorry.
No, Neville, company. Go ahead, Neville.
I was just going to say on the point of order, there's no resolution table.
Okay,
So Cam's put forward a request, it's a resolution. And that's where we're at.
okay,
So there's
all right.
no
So,
suggestion of a change at this point. Yeah.
okay, why don't we move on then? I think there's been enough discussion on that. Okay, next item.
Sorry, there was a motion on the table, so we have to second it and
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I missed the motion.
I missed the motion too.
Table.
read it. You didn't read it, so I said, I will read the motion for you, and I read the motion.
I wasn't making the motion.
With the
I was just looking for your feedback.
No, but there's a motion on the table now, unfortunately, so you just have to at least
Okay,
second.
I'm sorry. So here, and just correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, no, my
We
mistake,
have,
my mistake.
we have non-elected officials.
Sorry,
So walking that back. Okay.
it's not occurred to me. I asked if you, and I didn't realize I couldn't read it. It's just usually the
Okay.
first step is to read the motion. So, and you said we had a motion on the table. So
I
that
said,
was
no,
my,
I said, point one, we do not have a motion.
okay, that was my mistake. I
Okay.
apologize.
It was what I was saying.
Why don't we
It's not-
move to the next item? I think the next item was item number 4, request for decision. Okay, we're looking at, this is the CAO's request to facilitate strategic planning. And CAO was originally looking at 29th, 30th, and then looking at rescheduling that to the 6th and 7th. Any discussion on that?
I think there's two things here. There's a date, and then is the second thing not, do we want to pay for Alison to do this? It's not, isn't that not in here?
Okay.
Alison, yes.
No. Is it okay?
And we've got information which we're still waiting up until December 15th. So,
Sorry, what?
So the proposal is attached, but it wasn't not part of the recommendation. Sorry, the proposal from, oh, and the council approves, sorry, proposal from Alison. Okay, so I think those are
Two aspects. One is that we would get together, and the second was whether it be facilitated by Allison,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
that's correct.
you've got an opportunity to have the services of one of the best in the business to help you with the strategic planning for launching your 4-year term and getting your goals and objectives the way you want them. She's very good at it. Her costs are very reasonable, and I think it's a great opportunity. And that's why, because of her schedule, the recommendation is that we reschedule this to the 6th and 7th, push it out a week, and to enable her to come and do that with council. You can have it open, closed, however you want. Either way is fine. It also, by pushing it another week, gives Mr. Jaffer an opportunity to recover a bit more, and maybe he can take part in some of the sessions online. Yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity, and it's up to you whether you want to take advantage of it.
Is a 2-day?
Yeah, so it's always 2 days, scheduled over 2 days, because otherwise, you know, if you're going to go for 6 or 7 hours or whatever, it's just too long to go in one shot. People just lose their focus, and so it's spread over 2 days. Also, gives you some things to think about. Usually she has a little bit of homework for you the first night, something to think about, maybe some stuff to write down, bring back the next day, get your mind going on things, and it'll probably generate a lot of questions from you. And ideas, and I can't see a downside in doing it.
Okay, any comments?
When I think back to the beginning of the meeting, what you guys are asking for, the things you need to get up to speed, I think that's, we need to take care of that first. I think we have to have a committee of the whole, just us sit down, discuss it before we spend $4,000 on a facilitator, because to be quite honest, I don't think we're there yet.
We need a shirt sleeve session. Is that what
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
We just
committee of the whole.
to that we at least understand
Yeah, I think we
what the next step is. What are we trying to get out of this without a facilitator? So I think back on Alison's previous stuff and previous term and stuff that we inherited, and we've moved on through these sessions. We're going to go into these kind of strategic planning ideas with all this stuff laid out. I just don't know that we're ready for that.
Yeah.
Could we consider that in the spring? Early in the spring? Do you think would she be available in the spring to? I think we might be able to be much more pointed with her in terms of the direction, what we're looking for at that time. Have you worked with her before?
Yeah, no, these are good meetings to have, these strategic sessions to set kind of a roadmap for us.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, but the timing is up.
But the timing,
Yeah.
I think, is a challenge.
Marcus, any comment from you?
Yeah, I think that we've got a number of things that we need to wrap our heads around, that the timing may be a little bit rapid, that we've got some more pressing business. I'm also, as I mentioned at the beginning, I would like to see us as a council setting our own agendas and directions for these meetings. Of course, it's always helpful to have professional input, but in a sense, I worry about in a sense, being captive to another agenda that we haven't set. So I think that we should be setting our own agendas for discussions, strategic planning, and perhaps a work session before that where we set those principles out ourselves, and that we're not bound to previous paradigms in this kind of meeting.
Okay. I reviewed her resume. I think she's fabulous. Great resume. But I don't think we're ready. I echo the other counselors' feelings. I think that at this time, it's just too early for us. So I would be prepared to revisit this in the new year and take it from there. I just don't think that it's realistic to think that a strategic meeting in the early part of December is going to be productive. So,
is it realistic to establish some dates, some committee of the whole time at this time, or should we be looking at that at another time?
So
I think we probably need to look at different schedules in terms of when Councillor Reuter will be back in town. Do you have a rigid schedule as to when you were in town and out of town?
Talk to that in a minute. So this December 6th meeting was meant to be a council meeting, right? December 6th was going to be a council meeting.
Sorry, what?
December 6th was meant to be a council meeting.
Yeah, so we would instead could have a council meeting on the 29th instead. And have the session on the 6th, 7th. So
Okay.
what it does is it doesn't have to be anybody's particular agenda. You can just all talk about what are your priority, what are your goals and objectives. You kind of lay the groundwork and then you prioritize, and then that leads into budget, right? And then you can determine what you want to spend your money on.
yeah, I think we've all voiced our opinions that this would be more productive in the new year. So a committee of the whole would be good to.
That's how you do it no matter what.
So, okay.
So follow-up question. Are we going to cancel the scheduled strategic planning for the 29th and 30th?
Yes.
Because it's too early, or you're not ready, or is that the idea?
The facilitated strategic planning, is that?
Yeah, you're talking about the facilitated.
No, I'm just talking about on the council calendar for November 29th and 30th. There is currently scheduled council strategy meeting, which is as a committee of the whole, public's invited other than the closed portion. Wouldn't make any difference for the facilitator, but that's what's scheduled for those days. So if you're feeling like you're not ready and it's too early, then maybe we should rejig the schedule, and we could have a council meeting then instead, and push and change the have the next council meeting December 15th or 20th.
Okay, I'd suggest that we do have that we use that time as a committee of the whole, and that we continue with council meeting on just.
I have two meetings. We have one on the 29th, one on the 30th, currently on the schedule, 4 to 6 p.m. on both days.
On both days, yeah.
So I guess the question is,
Yeah,
do you have one and turn it into a regular meeting, or?
The actual time of
Do we
day,
keep
so
both?
it's left to be determined.
Do we have two committee, just shirt sleeve meetings as referred to by our lawyer counterpart?
Go ahead, Noel.
Okay, so I am traveling for work again, and what I've done is I've created a calendar for myself that's blocked out. Every week there's a council meeting. I've committed to be in Lions Bay. Every week is a council meeting. My plan was in that same week, if I had a Cody Stewart or Bearming, whatever I was going to do in the same week. If it's outside of that week, I'm not sure if I'm available, but it's a good chance that I'll be in Ontario.
So are you available the week of December the 6th? You've blocked that out?
Yes, because that's a council meeting.
Because that's the council meeting, okay.
So I've committed to go to Ontario the 2nd and 4th week.
Right.
of the month.
So-
Or the week
so you will-
will
Likely you'd be away on the 29th, 30th, likely.
Probably.
Yeah.
Not likely. I don't know. I'm not sure, but yes, there's a chance.
You would have had that on your council calendar from January of this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just asking if we proceed.
If we could
with what's on the council calendar of a CSC
So we have the 6th
November
as the
29th,
council.
and you don't have to do the 30th if you don't want to. You
Yeah.
can just do the 29th and
Let's do the 6th for the council and because Neville's not gonna be in town.
29th of Monday?
Tuesday.
Councillor Ruder, are you back in town?
Yeah, I'm back. I just wanted to say, Peter, I thought that the strategic, the CSCs on the 29th and the 30th or something you and I discussed by email, and that those were the ones that you were moving to the 6th and 7th, but you know, I think we've agreed that we want to have a committee of the whole. If and I think it'd be good to have Neville there. Just wondering whether Neville, if we could do
Move
it.
it into the week of the 6th.
Well, we could, or I'm still, so on the 29th, what time are you thinking and for how long? I mean, I'm 3 hours ahead of you. I could remotely call it.
Well, we could move it to the week of the 6th in
Yeah.
December.
Let's just move it to the 6th.
Let's move it to the week of the
It'll be easier.
6th, so that we would all be available, is that right?
Yeah, we could possibly do it on the 8th and the 9th of December, and I would suggest that the 4 to 6 p.m. might be a little difficult for some people. Could we do a 6 to 8 p.m. or, you know, something like that?
Or perhaps
Flexible.
have one day, perhaps have a slightly longer session for one day, depending on how we visualize it.
Sure, or starting at 6 at any rate.
Starting at 6 and going to 9, sure.
All right, that's a Tuesday, Wednesday. So we'll block those two.
No, that would be a Thursday,
6 is
Friday.
our council meeting. 6 is our council meeting.
6th of the
Right.
council meeting, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so you can do it instead of the council meeting?
no,
Or you
no, we're gonna have a
leave it
council
as
meeting.
it currently is on the council calendar at the 29th.
No,
You don't
no.
wanna do that.
We'll
No,
meet on the
we're
6th.
moving it into the next week. So we have a council meeting on the 6th. And we have a committee of the whole shirt sleeve meeting on the
Say the
8th
And 9th.
Well,
or
I
just
would
the
ask-
8th, depending on what you want.
Sure.
I would ask that council not schedule meetings for Friday nights. That's a hard one on staff. So, you know, asking staff to come in on a Friday night.
I'm not suggesting the Friday
Yeah,
night.
Friday, you said the 8th and the 9th.
Okay,
The
sorry.
9th is a
7th,
Friday.
8th. Wednesday, Thursday? Or just Thursday?
So we'll come out of the council meeting on the
That's Wednesday,
Tuesday and
Thursday.
then go into a CSC strategy meeting on the Wednesday, Thursday. That's a lot to put together, but
Or,
especially with no municipal
Monday.
coordinator, but I guess we'll see what that looks like.
Neville, would those dates work for you possibly?
Yeah, yes, but I could accommodate an earlier date if people wanted to do that on the 29th or something on the 29th, as long as, you know, I can do it remotely.
yeah, I'm suggesting that we not do it
Fine,
remotely,
fine.
just
Let's do it face to face.
because
That's
of
better.
there's a benefit to that.
Okay,
All right.
We want to see you.
let's see.
Okay, let's move on to next item if we ready to move on.
Just so I get this correct. We're not doing the 29th, 30th, and we are doing the council meeting on the 6th and a CSC on the 8th. Is that right?
7th and 8th, did we talk about?
Is that the motion?
I certainly understand that having 3 days that week would be pretty rigorous.
All
So
right.
perhaps having a Tuesday and then a Thursday and then perhaps have a 3 hours session. And then because we're looking at having the other potentially in January,
Okay, so the 6th and the 8th.
6th and the 8th.
6 and the 8th
They're both at 6 p.m.
at 6 p.m. Yeah,
Okay.
sound reasonable?
Yeah, unless everyone's comfortable starting a little earlier. I don't know.
On the 8th?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. with me.
Yeah, that may be a
I'm
great
good with
idea.
that.
I think, Marcus, are you okay to start a little earlier?
Sure, on the 8th, yes.
Yeah, no, we start at 4 o'clock or something and then
Mhm.
we have time. It's a good session.
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Yeah, have a bite.
Okay, we'll move to the next item, and this is the Bayview Road Municipal Driveway Bridge. Over to you, Peter.
Yeah, so the history of the matter is laid out in the report put together by Mr. Gaffer, before he went away. Details, got the bridge diagrams and so forth, but it's details what's happened and the issues and challenges we've had along the way. It's been a very complicated and challenging project to date. As we discussed in the close, there's some additional information that council would like to have. So I think the suggestion was to table this and see if we can arrange for the engineer to come and to a special meeting and provide that information to council. And so I'm not sure if there's really anything else to be discussed about the balance of what's in the open here.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Do we need a motion on that, or do we have one coming out of closed?
I think we have one coming out of closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any comments or questions we want to share with the gallery on this project?
I think we have some questions we want to discuss with the engineer and become much more informed of what's going on with this project. It's a project that started at $300,000 and currently is at 425, and we're not sure that that's the end point. So we really want to understand the project and the potential for the community here. So anyway, do we need to table this or just?
I think we just I think we discussed.
Closed, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've
Dealt with and closed. Okay.
dealt with it in closed. Marcus, anything before we move on?
Nope, all good with that.
Okay, item number 6, CAO, the Saline Bay Avenue Connector Project. Did you want to address this?
Yeah, so this is laid out in terms of bit of a history and rationale and key elements of the project, funding, roughly what it looks like, and the draft plans that the consulting engineers have provided. And they have indicated that they are available to come and do a combined town hall or open public info session if that's something that get public feedback, speak to the particular aspects of the project, answer any questions. And then, so my suggestion would be to do that, and then to, once that's the public have had the opportunity to do that, then perhaps have your say as a follow-up, which is, I think, what we should also be doing on the beach park project. Give people an opportunity to come out, look at the storyboards, ask questions of the people who've been hired to sort of put it on the ground, so to speak, and then have an opportunity to provide their feedback afterwards. All right. My suggestion.
Okay, thanks
for that is comments outlined in the report.
So Peter's suggesting combine the two into the open session. Michael, you've got
I would
your
be
hand up.
absolutely opposed to combining these, and I believe that we do have a motion in place that this has been put on hold for 90 days. Is that right? Up to 90 days. And so I think that the very worst thing that we could do would be to put the two projects together and have them in any way be seen as in any way connected. They're not. I'd like to ask a question. How much has been spent to date on the connector? There was $48,000 authorized in a June-July meeting, I believe, of the previous council. And at least 12,000 was authorized in a recent meeting. And there's been there's the first time we've seen these, but there's been a fair bit of surveying and so on a project that we're not sure that we're interested in at all. So how much do we know how much has been spent to up and I believe that November 4th, you're asked to not spend any more on it, but
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I've got that number.
Yeah.
But I think it's around 16.
about 16,000.
17, something like that.
Okay.
But I can certainly
Okay.
find that. And certainly
Okay.
can.
Well, but this project is currently on hold, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments, councillors?
Yeah, I guess I thought we had talked about doing a combined have your say, combined townhouse session, December 1st. At least that's what was carried at the November 4th meeting. So bringing both of these projects to the public, Exhibit A, Exhibit B format, and then collect public input that way, to whether it's the 1st of December. I think that's the date that we had resolved at the November 4th meeting. So I think we should stick to that and have some public input on both of these.
Neville, any comments?
In answer to Michael's question, Peter, the phase 1 number, is that what's done? Is that the number you're looking for? Because I can give it to you if you want.
Yeah, basically.
Phase 1 schematic design and phase 2 design development, those two together.
Yeah.
15,660.
I'm sorry, that's what's been spent today?
I'm saying that's what is in that first phase, as Peter, I think, is saying that's what's
And that's been.
I think we're at just over 13,382, I think, or that's including tax, I think. So
yeah, because there was money in that number for feedback and then corrections and stuff from the public, so you wouldn't have spent it all just yet.
Yeah, the contract amount for that phase was 16,660. And so, yeah, the idea would be I anticipated we would need to get public feedback and go to the public on it and consult and get ideas, ask questions. If there's tweaks required, or conversely, if the feedback is that you don't want it and you want to just terminate it, then that would be another option. But yeah, the only way you're going to find out is by going to the public and giving them an opportunity to provide you with feedback once they had that chance.
So, I mean, it's now, the design's now in the public domain. That's happened.
As of last Thursday, yeah.
There's been one email to all of council. But I'm sure there'll be more coming. I think we need to get some feedback first before we go any further. My personal opinion has not changed on the project, and I agree with Michael, we should not be putting them together in a town hall. And another $2,000 on top of what we already spent for storyboards. I just feel like I can't approve that. I really believe this whole idea of having a pathway that goes, go from the bus stop, cross Lions Bay Avenue, walk 100 odd meters down the road, you go that pathway through a forest, you go back, cross Lions Bay Avenue again, and then no one's going to, there's a thing called Willowfine pikeys, it's a Dutch term. South Africa uses something different. There's all the pictures. If you Google it, you'll see pictures of what happens when you build a fancy staircase and you've got a gentle ramp on the side. There's a pathway up the gentle ramp. No one walks on the fancy staircase. So the whole idea was flawed from the beginning. I don't think anyone's going to use that pathway. They're still going to walk up and down Lions Bay Avenue. That's my honest opinion. So for that reason, and that has never changed, and I've heard that from other people. It's not, it's my opinion as well as what I'm hearing from people. So I don't think we should put these two together. I do think they're very different and have different methods. And I think we need to hear from the public before we do anything further. That's my opinion.
So are we rescinding the November 4th?
Maybe before we do that, let's hear from Marcus.
I'm not proposing that, but someone might, yeah.
Yeah. Marcus,
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things to say about this remarkable project. The location of the bus stop further up a highway off ramp where vehicles are traveling even more quickly. I mean, I could go on and on about the alleged speeding up and down Lions Bay Avenue, the speed bumps that are to go in, the property owners that will be affected. But what I'm most concerned about is throwing more money at this. I do think it should be separated from the beach park consultation. It seems to me, once again, I don't want to say throwing good money after bad, but I mean, if it turns out that we are not going ahead with this, can we not present the information in a have your say to the public with mailouts and do this in a much more efficient, cost-efficient way so that we're not spending more money on this at this point in time?
okay, great comments, and I'll just add, I think it definitely should be separated. I think Beach Park is priority right now, and we've got a lot of interest in that. That's just my feeling. So I didn't realize that we had actually confirmed that, or I probably didn't recall, but I would ask for a motion to separate these two items.
I'd move that we separate the items. We proceed with the December 1st for the beach park. And we'll discuss that when the beach park discussion comes up. But in the meantime, that we not proceed with, that we continue to have this project on hold, including any community consultation, until we've had a chance to discuss it further.
Okay, second.
Sure, to Norm's point, do we have something we need to rescind or not? I can't remember.
The language is vague enough that I think it was the language, the way it reads. Sorry, pardon me, I'm just trying to find it here.
Does it matter if we pass a new resolution?
Well, I just don't want us to be like in contravention of a motion we passed. So for the beach park, it was very clear to aim to have a town hall session on December 1st. And for the Lions Bay Connector, the way it reads is that we would bring the report to the 15th, which we've done today, and aim to combine this consultation with the beach park town hall. So that was the intent of the 4th. We don't want to do that. Sure.
I don't think we have anything to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't need to rescind it.
All right, so we have a second.
Yeah.
A second, yes, all in favor? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next item 7, beach park revitalization. Staff, you have something to report on this?
Yeah, so. So the history of the project is laid out, all the information collected then attached to this report. There is additional updated information that we had previously asked the landscape architects to provide, has been provided and is attached, including additional renditions or renderings of what the washroom facility looked like. And I think that's around page 239, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. Yeah. So there is additional information from about page 226 to 230 is updated, showing the pavilion, the kayak racks, the layout of things, and the some of the playground features, what the washroom facility could look like, what the separate, if we did it under one of the options was to, so option 1 was to have a double prefab building with the front containing washrooms and maybe an additional one in the back, but the rest of the back would be storage and other uses for the park. Alternatively, option 2 was to just have the one prefab unit with the washrooms in it and do a separate building for storage and other uses. Would probably cheaper to do that via just designing something to go or to match and stick framing it as opposed to ordering a prefab building from these guys. But it is there, and I don't know that we have final numbers on that in any event. So this is at least provides some additional pictorials and visions of what things could look like. I think for the most part, we've, as I think I previously stated, we tried our best to maintain the original budget, which was drafted in 2018. And really should be nowhere near our potential realization, but lo and behold, it is, which I think is a pretty good accomplishment. And I think, that's been our focus, is to find a way to do this in a way that is going to be as economically efficient as possible, but obviously needs to address all the needs of the community as well. So it's all there, and the PMG landscape architect folks are prepared to come on the 1st to do a public info session or town hall, and their cost is quoted at $25.20 in the materials.
Okay, any comments from the councilors?
I'm very, very concerned about the plan that I've received last Thursday, including a photo of a building which I think has no place in Lions Bay, and prefab toilet structure that's could be dropped in anywhere. I'm also extremely concerned about the playground design and plan, and the lack of involvement of the appropriately aged parents in that plan. It's very, very concerning. I would not support having PMG come and spend $2,500 for them to market their plan, when I don't believe it's what the Village of Lions Bay is interested in. I think we have an incredible capacity in our community of capable individuals who can manage a consultation. And I think there's a confusion here as to what a consultation is. My belief in consultations is seeking input from people and working with that. And I think that great information comes out of that. Whereas the consultations that seem to be suggested are to do a marketing program of either the Lions Bay Connector, a project that no one seems to know where it came from, and or a marketing program for some prefab units dropped into our community. There's no discussion of green concerns. There's materials that are going to be that are being suggested to come in here that community members have identified as potentially carcinogenic. There is all sorts of structures that we just need to know a lot more about. Just a preliminary look at the playground design. I noticed that the swing set has been moved in such a way that children running from one part of the playground to another would run through the swing set. So there's, to me, just some huge gaps in this plan that require input of thoughtful and very astute community members that we have. I'm delighted that the Aaron Moore Playscape is incorporated, and we really want to make sure that that's incredibly beautiful. When I spoke to the landscape architect, and he was trying to get a sense of Aaron's joy, and so has named this joyful bubble. But the actual top play area, I'm very unclear what age group it's targeting for. And it seems to me that there's a whole younger age group that's been completely unserviced by this park. So there's just a whole variety of concerns that need to be addressed. And I believe that we have an incredibly competent village citizenry who are anxious to be involved in this, and who I believe will honor a budget and will be incredibly creative in working towards that. And I think will rally volunteerism to make, if there's things that they want to happen, I believe that if they understand the budget restraints, that they will rally to bring whatever forces they can to bear to assist and really having this playground upgrade, or pardon me, the beach park upgrade be spectacular.
All right, Michael, thanks. I know you're passionate about the beach park. So why don't we move on to Marcus? You have some comments?
Yeah, I share similar concerns about the presentation being done by the group that's proposed. As to the building itself, I mean, I've taken a pretty good long, hard look at it. I agree that a foreign prefab unit plunked down would just not fit Lions Bay at all. I mean, I'd like to take a look at. I mean, I've got a series of questions. For example, I understand that the septic has been upgraded at substantial cost not that long ago. Is, for example, the foundation or slab something that can be retained? I mean, I've spoken to some people who indicate that we can, work, either build something from the ground up there or work with the existing structure, possibly. So it seems to me there are various ways in which we can proceed with this in a much more cost-effective way. So just a quick question. I'd like to know, do we have an answer on whether the foundation and or slab are usable?
Existing building is not usable. I can't say for sure about the existing foundation. So
How about the septic? Is the septic?
the septic is not capable of accommodating more than the one bathroom on either side without an upgrade. So that's been, the scope of that has been determined as to what's required. So, one of the biggest things that we heard when we had the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee was more washrooms, please. That was sort of number one on the list, I think, for everybody. So
I didn't see that anywhere.
yeah, it's in the survey.
I think everyone wanted new washrooms.
I read it. That was
Can I just jump in here and I say, I think we need to go back to the drawing board on this, consult the community, do it as a grassroots thing. And I mean, certainly the bathroom needs to be redone, but I mean, and we should revisit the question of, do we need more bathrooms? I mean, I think what essentially people are looking for is an attractive bathroom structure. I understand we have some possible issues with regard to providing for handicapped access. I'm just wondering, I looked in the back of it. I mean, there seems to be a storage area in the back. I mean, can't we expand within the existing envelope?
no.
Okay, Neville or Nora, some comments?
Yeah, I guess, are we still on for the 1st of December? Is that?
I think we're still on.
I guess the question is, well, how is that going to get facilitated?
I've got volunteers that'll lead that.
Yeah.
So I've been quite hesitant to even ask because, of course, any of them I asked in the past have required resolution, but I've got volunteers that are willing to step up. So I'm not worried about that at all. I'm excited about a town hall meeting to get information, but I mean, I think Ryan Bruce brought it up, you know, the follow-up to the town hall meeting is going to be as important, if not more important. So, Michael, we haven't heard from Neville yet.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And Norm, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just curious how that's gonna be, you know, I've been to a few municipal, you know, open houses where the municipality presents information and gets feedback from residents, and it's pretty structured. So I'm just curious how we plan to structure that. Are we gonna put these billboards up? Are we gonna have people fill out forms? You know, what is it that we're hoping to get from this? Because we do have some constraints associated with the grant. So we have certain buckets and we're going to fine tune within those buckets. So we just need to make that story clear.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing my question to staff is how do you see this coming together?
So can I just,
Yeah.
what Norm said there, the grant is, there's a list of things that they want us to do. They're not,
Scope. Yeah, we have.
scope. They're not defined in detail.
No, but we do have.
and
scope.
They're outcome based, right?
Yeah, but there's no detail exactly what the place get upgrade
No,
has
it's
to look
in the
like.
report. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bathroom, but they don't define the bathroom. But they were very clear, though, that we do
Yes,
need
so-
to do everything in the scope.
It's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that,
That was, sorry, let me just go.
yeah, go ahead. Hey, sorry, think come to mind.
We have different buckets. We don't have allocated monies for sections of scope. We have one overall budget and a list of things we need to do.
No, I have to go back and look at it, but I think we did have to define it, but there might be some flexibility within that. But I have to go back and check. And the big thing is that it is important though to enforce, we do have the scope. Sometimes if we hear other ideas about other things we can do, and we are limited. We got a grant based on what we said we
No,
were
we
going to
understand.
do.
I
Yeah.
think- I think we understand
But
that.
you're right, it's
But it is,
the bathroom.
but it's flexible. It's about.
Yeah, in the back.
Yeah.
Can you
We have to
compare
have-
that with?
we have to have access, you know.
It's in the report.
It's in there, okay.
So
My question was, I noticed that the jetty isn't included in the park, although to me, it seems, well, it's included, but it's not included in this,
In the scope.
in the scope.
it's not included in that guy's contract. It's included in the scope of things we do.
Not part of PMG's contract.
Not part of the PMG's.
Okay, so it's part of the grant though?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
The current budget 60K.
Yeah.
Jetty.
The pier and kayak launch reconstruction.
that seems light, but
Could I just note, oh, sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
Briefing.
No, I wasn't finished.
Go ahead.
Say much shit.
go ahead.
Okay, so I do echo the concern, and I'm probably the worst person with the vision and the eye for aesthetics. I'm not very good at that. But I was really concerned about the concrete kind of precast structure. When I saw the picture, it was better than I thought. Surprise. Right. So you can imagine what I had in mind. But in speaking to people, I think there's a lot of question about that. And you know, what should it look like? And you know, is that really the kind of in keeping with Lions Bay and everything else around there? So I do think that's something we need to consider. I think one of the decisions we need to make soon and now tonight is, are we going ahead with the concrete washroom design and trying to meet this May 1st date? Or are we trying to come up with other ways to do a washroom and still meet May 20?
May 23rd, yeah, we can.
But it was the May long. And what could that look like? I've crunching some square foot numbers on some of these things, and to Marcus' point of, you know, conventional stick build, you wonder whether you cannot afford that. I mean, these square foot numbers are really high. And then I had the bathroom, you know, and it's not a house, right? I'm not expected to come out at $200 a square foot. But you know, this current price that we've got in here for the wood frame from what they call green flush, which is a modular wood frame, comes out extraordinarily high. You got to be convinced you could do it for less than that. I mean, even if you spend, you know, $500 a square foot on this bathroom, you'd be saving money.
Neville, that final column with the Dreamscape or whatever they're called, that's a prefab outfit as well, and that's there for.
I understand that they, for comparable cost of a modular timber frame construction.
No, the option that was included under option 2 was to only do one unit of the prefab from CXT, and then the other would be a stick frame thing that was laid out.
Yeah, I understand.
Underneath option 2.
I understand.
And it was only about 61,000, I think.
For stick framing the piece on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm talking about the green flush option, which is a modular wood frame structure.
Okay.
And that becomes an extraordinarily high. And I'm suggesting that you could design something and stick frame it conventional style for considerably less than that. Bounce the numbers off some local builders, every bells and whistle and great finishes got to be less than 200K was the kind of number we came out with, probably closer to 150. So there definitely seems to be some benefit there. That's not one of the options we considered. So the problem is to do that, and I understand what we have to do. We have to do that. We first of all have to get a layout, do a design, get some better costing, which could take some time.
So you're talking about the actual washroom facility, not the storage facility.
Okay, which is against Michael's point of something that looks more in keeping with kind of some sort of West Coast design. Yeah, so I was talking about the washroom facility. I have one question on layout. So I understand we want to add wheelchair, we not want to, we are going to add accessible stall, right? Which we need to add, but we've got one on each, one in the female side and one in the male side. And then later there's this idea of a general neutral stall. So we had a third one potentially as an option. I get that in the structure behind. My question is, if you take that third one in the structure behind and you stick it into the other building, right? And you had just one that was, gender neutral, wheelchair accessible, and unisex, right? Just one. Then in my eye, you still have sufficient space in the other area to have, 2 units on each side. And
2 units, what?
You can just have two women's toilets and a urinal and a men's toilet, because you're not having 2 wheelchair accessible areas one in each area. So I think there's a layout option there that could be considered. That would be definitely be certainly more economical. So that was the thoughts. There's a whole bunch of correspondence. I assume everyone has not only looked at the package, but realized that in the correspondence, we've got a whole lot more residents that have responded to some of the stuff. And I think Michael clearly read it, because it was the one about, there was concerns about product or the materials we're using for the kids' play area. Some of that stuff that's been mentioned. I do, and you read through those, and there are residents that are concerned that somehow there's a movement not to do the beachfront upgrade. I think, I try to make that statement and speak for everyone in the last meeting. I don't think that, I know that's not anyone's intention. It's a question of what the beachfront upgrade actually looks like. Yeah, so I'll just pause on those thoughts of just some of us just reflecting what others have said.
Okay, go ahead, get your hand up and we'll come back to you, Neville. Or sorry, Norm.
Just with respect to the concerns about the toxicity of the rubber product, I did ask about that and got the answer I got back, and shy of a bit of background material and that kind of thing, but was that when it's poured in place, it's poured in place resin that is the process is such that it's not toxic once it's poured in place as a single, once it's off gas unit. And I'm not sure what the chemical process is behind that. It's just, something that obviously needs to be looked into. I would certainly.
Yeah,
So it's
no,
important. I really want to
the
know that
other
information
the other
as
side
well.
was a concern as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a concern. So we need to look into it. But that was the answer, the quick answer that I got back.
Doesn't meet your thinking over time. That's the only concern.
But yeah, that was first question I asked
Yeah.
too, was over what period of time and stuff. So we need to explore that and get all the answers back, but that was what they said initially.
All right, Norm.
Yeah, I just had one question in terms of the grant and this idea of self-performing, because I know we've talked about, or people have talked about local forces building, local residents building the washroom facility, because we have, strong contractors within the village, folks that build homes for a living. They clearly know what they're doing. Is there a way to do an in-kind contribution with the right structure, contract structure, where someone basically vets that effort in with a dollar value, a reasonable dollar value? And could that count towards an in-kind contribution? And could we leverage that with the grant? So, $300,000, someone comes in from the village and says, I will build you an A-class facility for this $300,000. You just need to write an invoice, whatever. I don't exactly know what that would look like.
It wouldn't get us any extra money.
I know
We have some volunteers doing work. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah.
You can't leverage it and say, okay, we'll give you an additional 300 because you saved 300 here. No.
I'll add to that. They've done that in South Surrey and Surrey on the rugby building out there. And Tony, as part of the infrastructure committee, had commented on that. And they had many contractors step up. So there is a way to do that where the city benefits and to do it with a unionized staff and so on. They've done it in Surrey. So there might be worth picking up the phone and giving them a call and just seeing how they transacted it, or giving Tony a call and asking him. He was involved. He was on one of the committees. I think he's heavily involved in the rugby. So they had some success on that front.
It'll be the terms of the ISIP grant. Like we've entered into an agreement. We have a share cost agreement. So it would be a question for them. We can definitely ask it. But there's a lot of different grants out there. So it has to be specific to the ISIP grant.
Yeah. I was just curious because I feel like there's some way to leverage some, and get local, get the local flavor that we know folks are on.
You set it up as a competitive bid process and you expect that your local resident who's offered to do it for less is going to come in with the lowest bid.
Yeah.
If everybody else is at 3 to 4, he's at 2 or something like that, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure.
But
you would write it
that in the past, we have actually spoken to some local contractors and the amount was higher,
right,
not lower. So just, be forewarned that it may not go the way you think it's going to go.
Can I just jump in here for a second? I want to respond to something that Peter was saying, and I believe we're talking about the AstroTurf. I find the idea that the supplier or producer of this is going to supply us with some data that shows it to be safe. It just doesn't flush for me. I think we should take this off the table right away. I mean, there are so many studies that indicate that this is a bad idea. It's unattractive. It just doesn't fit what our village is. I mean, I'm prepared to come out of the gate and say we should turf this thing right from the jump.
So this is
Okay.
Amongst all big projects that are being done by municipalities all over the province. So I think it's important to get the information. I think it's important not to prejudge something until you have that information. That's all I would say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And just a number of points. One is I'm quite concerned. Well, first of all, let's look at timeline. When I read some of quite a number of the responses and some of the most recent responses, the Village of Lions Bay believes, I believe to a great extent, that the project that they are pushing or really encouraging us to move ahead with is a project which was presented on the side of the washroom for about 2 years, and it was done by a different architectural firm, and that plan was taken down on April 29th of this year, the day of the volunteer meeting down at the park. And then that plan no longer existed. And there was then some discussion on May the 20th in the mayor's update at that time. And there was a real focus on fences and plumbing and drain pipes and all sorts of things, which was quite concerning. And then there was a request put out basically for companies to suggest how they're going to meet the criteria, but I don't really believe they understood Lions Bay and the criteria they had to meet, and which would involve, you know, real consultation with the community. So I just think there's some real confusion out there about what the project is, and when I think people, if they look really deeply at the presentation that's in last Thursday evening's documents, that they're going to honestly be horrified, and that we really need to get input and have people really move towards having this be really quite beautiful. Another concern I have is I attended the Lidstone workshop for our legal advisors and for new counselors. And one of the presentations in the afternoon was regarding homelessness. And you may think that homelessness is not an issue for Lions Bay, but what's happening is it's becoming an issue for the entire province. And the way what's happening is if a homeless group moves into your park or into your area and you try to move them along, you are charged with trying to find some place for them to move. So it's a very challenging kind of situation. So I think if we're looking at creating a building that has storage rooms in it that could be occupied. I mean, this sounds like a kind of an esoteric concern, but I just have to say it's not. It's come up as a real issue. So we need to be very careful. Also, I'm questioning what is it that we're storing at the beach park? How often are things used? And, you know, at what cost are we building a storage space? And then how do we keep that dry? What are we keeping in it? If we're bringing tables and chairs down, you know, half a dozen times a year, we really need to look at what's the best way of doing that. What's the economy of doing that? And the other thing, of course, that I'm very concerned about is how green, in quotations, is this park. The assumption of this particular proposal is that we basically annihilate everything in the park and start again. And my perspective is that we really need to look at the Lorrybeck and see whether that has another decade in it, rather than putting a metal flower in its place, which is what the proposal appears to be. So I think we need to look very, very carefully at this plan, what it is, what our goals are, and really keep environmental concerns. I mean, in terms of examples for our children, we shouldn't be trucking in a washroom from Texas, and you know, I don't think anybody has any idea that the prefab washroom that's being suggested is acceptable. And if we look at the plans that were posted on the side of the washroom for over 2 years, it showed a very Lions Bay-like wooden structure. And I think that that's something we need to move towards.
Okay.
So sorry to talk again.
No.
Yeah, can I-
Is there any, but yeah, I think we probably want to wrap this up.
We do.
There, so-
And yeah, Michael raised a lot of good points that
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot of us have been thinking about. But one question here is, can we keep this thing moving along in pieces and in phases? Right? Can we resolve the playscapes, get that done? Make sure we're doing it with the right materials. Make sure that we're not, you know, and whether, yeah, I agree with one, whether some supplier says, don't worry, it's safe or not, what do we want? What's the feel of Lions Bay? It's a very environmentally conscious, natural materials, that kind of stuff. But we can move ahead with sections of this. Are we happy with what the kayak rack looks like? I think we're going up to like 100 units now. I don't know what currently stands at. Is that the right number? Let's get on and do that, right? And we can start the project rather than trying to think we have to wrap it up all in one piece. Because there's too many moving parts. Let's start making some progress.
And I have a comment. I agree with that. I love the idea of moving forward in phases. And I think, look, we all want to see this move as quickly as possible. I don't love the washrooms at all. I think I just don't like that. I like the idea of exploring, some local talent to see if we can't meet that deadline though. I don't want to throw the towel in yet. I think let's do everything we can to meet that deadline, especially for those washrooms and some of the other.
Well, if it's
amenities.
self-performed, we're not as limited with this supply. The lead time on the bathroom, that really was the crux of it. And if we have local folks that can form and pour a foundation and frame up a building, then we're not tied to that timeline. They can come and do it locally, right?
Right.
It's just the design that's going to cost money. You have to design something. Right?
Yeah.
Well, on one point of order, and I'm not sure the office will open, when we were talking about doing this in-house, we had one of the local architects that told me he would design pro bono. But that was a while ago. And we didn't get there because the council decided we'd rather go to get craft the grant again, so we didn't do it.
We got a lot of designers in the village, that's for sure. Peter.
So who's going to lead this presentation? Who's going to answer the questions that people have?
You know what,
all these things. We're not going to.
I'll get that organized. I'm going to put together a committee that'll take care of that, and
They won't be able to answer the questions that are pertaining.
no, but we're going to find out what people want.
The building.
I mean, well, at least I feel like we still don't have all the answers. Do we want this prefab washroom? Yes or no? I mean,
with respect to
personally, I don't want it, but what does the community want? Peter.
There are options to add different materials to the exterior. You can add stone to it. You can change a number of different things. So, and even if you don't like what their options are, you can put a faux finish on using any materials you want. Like with that picnic shelter, I look at that and go, that's really ugly, but you could fur out the posts with any kind of material you want, whether it's fake stone or just wood. And, you can dress things up to look better cheaply, as opposed to starting at square one. With just an idea.
But I think you're buying a modularized precast washroom and then cladding with something else. I don't, that doesn't take.
Yeah, I don't love that idea either. But look, what are we trying to achieve on this? So is there a motion on this, or what is this? We've got the town hall meeting on the first.
A few more questions about and observations about the town hall. We don't have a big printer to print this stuff on nice big billboards and stuff like that. So it's all going to have to get shipped out to like North Van or whatever to get that done. So you got people to organize all that, but I mean, people will come, they'll have questions, and there won't be anyone to answer those questions. So I don't think Niall will even be back. So we won't be able to answer any of the technical questions. We won't have people that can answer the questions that people are probably going to have. So I just see it a little bit short-sighted not to have these folks come and do the presentation. But that's up to you guys.
What are they presenting though, Peter?
Well, they're also answering questions about design material.
No, Peter, that's a valid point. They are presenting this concept, this plan. And we're saying we don't necessarily want this plan.
We want to ask what they want.
Think about this, and we're not, and they're going to come, and then if heaven forbid, it sounds like they're trying to sell something, because we all know down how well that goes down in Lions Bay. Been in a few of those meetings. So let's not do this as a charade that we're trying to sell something and why it's the right way to go, because that's going to go sideways badly. And they're not giving us other options; they're giving us an option in the stuff.
Gentlemen, I think we should view this as the town hall as perhaps as a sort of a brainstorming session where we gather information from residents and put some information together and get a better idea of what the direction on this should be. We don't need to get sold a plan here.
We have international consultants available, I believe, who can inform us on some of this. So I think we need to have some people tasked
Okay.
with doing this and then move on.
Okay, so, I mean, this was one of my platforms, was town hall meeting, so this is right up the alley. I believe this is important. We want to get this built. Those of us with children, especially, we've all waited for this. Let's move on the town hall meeting, and we'll have locals, volunteers, spearhead this and work with your staff here. So is there anything that needs to be moved on this?
Is that clear enough direction for staff, or do you guys need some?
Well, how about if we get the committee together and then they go in and they sit with staff for an hour and have that discussion?
So now you're talking about reestablishing the beach ball committee.
This is an organization that will sort of put the town hall together, or at least host it. Now, maybe we haven't even discussed it, so.
No, exactly. So
It'd be in this,
there would need to be a resolution of some sort. We need to understand what the committee looks like, if that's what we want to do.
Okay. Okay, town hall. Community committee,
okay,
I'd
move that that the mayor strike a task group to prepare and undertake the December 1st town hall meeting, and that we request that staff provide what's a reasonable amount of time.
So how do you intend to decide who's on this task group? And how who's going to decide that?
The mayor.
How about I bring forward the volunteers and I'll pass it by the counselors prior to committing to anything.
You wouldn't be able to do that in a meeting because this is the last meeting before December 1st.
Well, we'll call a special meeting if we have to for this. This is, I think it's important enough.
Okay.
I don't want to, I don't want to make moves without counselors being in full knowledge of it. What I'm saying is I'm willing to roll up my sleeve, but the time.
We have someone that knows how to facilitate this kind of thing. You have someone in mind that.
Yeah,
knows how to facilitate? Okay. I mean, that's,
Yeah, they're okay.
sorry?
Yeah, they've come forward.
But I'll pass it by because I've talked with the volunteers. I've had many people put their hands up for things, but I want to make sure we've got that commitment. And then we'll call a special meeting and let's move on this, and they meet with staff and figure out how we're going to gel it together and be ready for the first.
So all the information's here that they need.
Okay.
We don't have anything more. It's here.
So if I could jump in, Ken, what you're proposing makes sense. I think then what we'd need to do is have a special meeting to take a look at what the people that you're proposing are putting together for the first, so that we can have some input onto it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think you
To
need
me,
a special meeting.
Yeah.
Just resolution right now, the mayor strike a task force of volunteers to organize a town hall for December 1st. And do you want to attach a budget to that for them? They'll need to go to North Van, do printing, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you want to attach a few $100 or I don't know what.
Yeah, what was your printing budget
I
that you
don't know
had?
what printing would cost when he's.
Well, it's $2,500 to the other group. And I think about probably 1,000 was printing, wasn't it, getting the storyboards ready? So what if we set aside $1,000 and return the money?
I laugh because the signs that I had printed up, I think the group that I finally went with was about 1/5 of the cost of all the other printers. So
I paid.
So with a budget of up to.
the costs were all over the
All
map
over the
on
map.
that.
Okay,
budget
so
up to
we suggest a $500 budget, $1,000 budget.
Yeah,
I don't spend it, then whatever.
do 1,000 and
Okay, up to 1,000,
up to 1,000.
and they'll demonstrate how frugal they can be. put the money.
And would we also want to add into that resolution, Peter, that this will be, there'll be a presentation to council on what this committee comes up with in terms of their presentations for us to discuss and approve?
I don't know that you need that, do you? Are they just gonna put it together and pull it off and on the first?
2 weeks away.
I mean, you guys can,
It's gonna happen pretty quick, but so,
not much time here, so.
you know, I think the pledge is, look, let's get together with the councillors.
I'd like to understand who you've got in mind, because there might be other people who want to contribute. Just let not go back to one small group and think we got.
You know what,
No, this
I'm
would be
fine
wide
with
open.
that, yeah.
I think it needs to be wide open, yeah. And any councillors who are interested in being involved. So,
Well, I think it would be hard pressed to find a councillor that's not going to want to be there.
Put out a call for volunteers in the village update.
Well,
It'd be another.
yeah.
You can bet.
Look, okay, the next item is, I think, the mayor's address, and that is committees. So I'll read a few ideas that I have on committees, and but by all means, if we've got some that are interested, I've
so
got
I'd like to move the
names in
motion,
mind.
move the motion that we have the town hall meeting on December the 1st with a budget of $1,000 and whatever else Peter's got there. Just to get that,
Yeah,
the motion done.
okay. Second,
Yeah, I'll see.
all right, all in favor? Aye, okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is obviously coming together fast, so we'll be communicating, I'm sure, daily. Any other comments on the beach park before we move on?
The only one I would make is with the committee, just, I know I keep saying it, but really clear on the scope, because we get a lot of feedback about different ideas and we are locked into that scope. It's a broad scope, but it is important that, we rein it into that scope. And, I've heard some ideas about putting a pool in and, I'm just being silly.
No.
But no,
It wasn't.
I don't want to,
So,
I don't want to tamp down the enthusiasm. That was my only thing, but I think you have to understand that we've signed an agreement and we've committed to that scope.
I think
Yeah.
if that information's known, I think people are more than willing to work within
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
But it's not, but they need to know up front. Otherwise it's, oh, you guessed wrong, right? Oh, you guessed wrong. Whereas
It's in the report. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's their guidance, the report, it's in the report.
Perfect. Okay. It's really helpful.
okay,
Thank you.
So you're next, right?
And next, there's in the basement.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think we can do this one pretty quickly.
okay, I had on mine, I had the mayor, and I was gonna jump in with committees, which is fine, but I'm happy let's attend to the Bear Smart. I either have an old copy, I think, because it might have varied early on.
There's only ever been one copy.
Really?
No, you're right. You're right. You're next.
You're next.
But I don't need to go, I'm happy to,
That's the agenda.
On the agenda.
okay,
Almost.
all right.
Oh, there was nothing under mayor, so I didn't.
We can talk about it.
realize it.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I've been, I don't want to say inundated, but people right from the door knocking campaigns and the past, people have been wanting to step forward, volunteer. And I think it's important that we get these committees going. So I'd like to make some suggestions. I've talked to a few of the councillors. These are not set in stone by any means. And I hope that they will generate more conversation and get us moving on this, because I really think that we need to get the infrastructure committee back in place, as do we need to get the finance committee and the emergency planning. And I'd like to add a human resources committee as well. So what I propose is that I'll just read through a few of these ideas, and I'd like them at least included in the minutes. And then this gets a discussion going, and we get these committees formed and we get up and running.
I just want to ask a question. It comes up again, committees come up again under committees, council route and appointments, council committees. Is that the same topic?
You know what? It's very similar. I didn't have any input in this agenda. So I think I had my one spot where it said mayor, and I thought I better jump in and take advantage of that.
Okay.
But I'm happy to address it during those committees.
Just asking.
No, I asked the question because I asked the question. I wanted to get it on the agenda.
Okay.
So I think this is addressing it.
Okay.
Same.
I'll probably remove my- Go ahead.
This will take me a couple minutes and then we move on. Okay. So, I'll be forming the standing committees. That's the mayor's right. The council's representation may change and evolve. I put out a request on previous meetings of expressions of interest from residents, and I'm doing so again tonight. So the standing committees will be tasked with addressing business and mission of the village with an emphasis on community involvement whenever possible. The 4 standing committees that I see are the Finance Committee, the Infrastructure Committee, which will also include the Special Projects and Public Works Committee. And then we'll have the Emergency Planning and Emergency Programs, including Lions Bay Fire Rescue, Lions Bay Search and Rescue, Lions Bay Emergency Social Services, and the Lions Bay Emergency Operating Center. So I penciled in some of the leads, and these come from the conversations that I've had with the various councillors. But as I say, they're not set in stone. If you would like to hear them,
So you have
just
finance, I see emergency.
Yeah, I was trying to
Was there a
say-
4th one?
the 4th one is the human resources.
Oh.
Can you reiterate about the emergency program? Because there is an emergency program bylaw, and under that bylaw, there's an emergency program committee, and it specifies who sits on that committee,
Okay.
which includes the fire chief, SAR.
Okay, so that one's in place.
Light ambulance, if we.
Not a standing committee.
It's a committee that is actually created by bylaw. So
Okay,
it's doesn't go anywhere.
It's always there.
So
okay,
Oh, it's there.
then we're covered.
That committee does have 2 councillors on it.
right.
Last year it was myself and last term was myself.
Okay, well, I was gonna put 3 councillors on it, but that's great.
The terms of reference are already laid out as to who goes.
Yeah.
There's 2
Yeah.
councillors, and it was Fred and I.
You're in, you.
most of them.
Okay, all right, so then we'll have 3 standing committees to begin with. Okay, Finance Committee, Infrastructure Committee, and the Human Resources.
And so when you said infrastructure, you said something about including special projects and what?
So Special Projects and Public Works Committee. I'll provide you with this printout, Peter. I'll email it to you, so you'll have it directly and you can include it right in the minutes.
I'm just trying to understand though, what do you mean by public works committee? Like, is that not just all like the infrastructure or everything? that Public Works does?
It's basically in brackets, so it's everything. Infrastructure is everything.
So to be fleshed out, just these are the ideas though.
Yeah, but listen, if some of the bylaws, if these are opposed, you know, I think that's another area that I'd like to see is I'd like to see a task force to look at the policies, procedures and bylaws. So that task force, I think, may make some suggestions on how we can, you know, operate a little bit more effectively and get more from our volunteers when available. So I think we've got to be flexible and be willing to, you know, harness this expertise within the village. Because when I was out campaigning, you know, I was being it was being relayed to me that you know, the committee members weren't feeling valued at times. So I think we can change that attitude. So we'll have the select committees as well, and the select committees, of course.
Before you go, on these standing committees, how many members do you intend to put on them?
Well, I believe I'm allowed 3, up to 3.
Just
Standing,
equal numbers.
equal
I
number,
don't think there's a limit. You could have all 5 councillors, I guess.
You could have a committee of 10,
right?
if you had all 5 councillors on.
Okay, so it's an equal number of, yeah, I was looking at 2 to 3 for each committee. I mean, otherwise we might as well, I don't know, I did,
Once it comes to council meeting.
yeah,
I think that was one of the one of the issues of the infrastructure committee. It had 4 members of council on it.
right.
So
I think that's too many.
effectively it had a quorum. I think any standing committee has got a quorum for me is problematic, but anyway.
Yeah,
It's effectively a quorum. So when it came to the council meeting, all it was a question of informing Jamie what we really decided. And that was problematic. We didn't have the council discussion.
yeah. I think that's a point well taken. I wasn't envisioning all the councillors on there, and I'd heard that in the past that having everyone there was problematic. So.
And sorry, can I just ask you, what would the HR committee be doing?
HR committee would be just looking at different issues that might come up and how volunteers can work better with the staff. And one example of that would be tonight, you know, the town hall meeting. How are we gonna get this town hall meeting up and running by the 1st? You know, we're gonna have it, I'm gonna, as soon as I get out of here, probably either tonight or tomorrow, first thing, I'll be phoning those volunteers that I have in mind. And then, you know, we'll be thinking, okay, how can we get together with the staff so that they can work together? And we'll find out. This is gonna be an experiment, see whether it works. I mean, I can't get past the front counter and but look, I'm optimistic. I think there's lots of opportunity here. But give me your feedback, Peter. You're writing
I'm just,
excessively there. I've mentioned that I will pass on this document and you can read it in detail and we can discuss it.
Okay.
And you can post it in the minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions of Peter? Or Pam?
I think those are my questions for the moment. Pam, do you have anything like
No.
with respect to finance or anything like that?
No. Okay, the other committees, the select committees require one council member. I think most of these are already, a lot of them are already standing or already in place. The Climate Action Committee, Norm, you're chairing that committee, the Curly Stewart Memorial. Highway Noise Committee, I think this is something that maybe isn't in place that I'd like to see. I know it's important to the community, but of course, this is a councillor's prerogative as a group to decide on this. But I think highway noise is something that,
Huge issue.
you know, we have to listen to our community and do what we can. And there's some great community members that have ideas out there.
The highway was a tricky one because it's interjurisdictional, so you really want to have the
Mhm.
right person with the right
Yeah.
relationship building skills.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's.
I'll tell you one woman I met and, you know, during the campaign, and she dealt extensively with West Van on highway noise. And she wasn't an expert in that field, but she's smart, she's well-schooled, and she was able to make a difference. And that's just one example of a person that is not necessarily a technical background, but is phenomenal and made a difference in West Van, and I think can help Lions Bay. And I'm sure there's others that that we'll all have and put forward. So the highway noise was one committee, and again, I'll give you this in a printed form, Peter. Parking and bylaw enforcement, trees and views, that's already standing. The advisory committees, Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee, and the community involvement. Those are two suggestions that I have. The council liaison assignments.
Would the community involvement committee, would this be the group that would be doing the December the 1st?
That's my thought. And this is women led as well. So I'm you know, I think that we've talked about this in the past that you know, that was one of the sort of regrets, not regrets, but one of the things that I would have loved to have seen was more female involvement. Whether that would have been, I would have been in this position or some of us councillors would have been interchanged. I think if we can get more female involvement in our committees, I think that'll be important. And a couple of the individuals that I have in mind for the town hall are female, so. Rambling on a little bit, council liaison committees, we have the Bear Smart Committee, and we're going to hear from Neville, and Bird Friendly Committee, we have Block Watch, the Events Committee, Garden Volunteers, the Historic Society, and Lions Bay Arts Council, Lions Bay Elementary School and Play School, Seniors Guild, Trailblazers, and the Rangers Program, which I think is a tremendous program and got commitments from adults that have been brought up through that system in Ontario. And I've reached out to some of the 17 to 19-year-olds, the first year of college, that are willing to jump right into this and kind of be leaders, you know, and hopefully we can get that on track. First Nations liaison, I think that's important, and the Howe Sound Community Forum. And I know Michael and I attended that Howe Sound Biosphere with Ruth Simons, and that was a very well put together program, and which delighted to learn more about it. So I'll pass that document on. I won't say any more because I know we have a lot on our plate.
Can I just jump in here for a second? That's a lot of information and a lot of figuring out we need to do there. And I appreciate the start and the impetus. Are these things that we might want to address as a group in our committee of the whole meeting as to how these get staffed and who's going to be on what committee?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that was the committee of the whole would be something that, of course, we're going to get together on right away as quick as possible. So,
Sure.
and again, the intention on this isn't to set this in stone, Marcus. It's to get us moving on it so that we can start to provide support where we're available to the staff and get volunteers and, you know, engaged in this process.
Yeah, so I didn't take a speed writing classes. Are you going to share that with us as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll visit this in a more detailed way at our committee of the whole meeting then.
Yeah, we will. We
Okay.
will. There's no resolution required. I just wanted to put it on record, and at least, you know, at least I've stepped out, and I know others have as well, to volunteers and said, look, and we're receiving emails, and I'm saying, look, give us an opportunity to get our feet on the ground here, and we'll reach out to you, you know, and let you know how we can get you involved. So I wanted to once again follow up on those numerous times that I've mentioned during the public sessions that we've had in the past. So, okay, any other comments? If not, we'll move on to Councillor Abbott and the more pressing matters. And I've got definitely some questions on the Bear Smart program and how we can help. So over to you, Neville.
Okay, so yeah, this request for support is into two. One is getting through whatever is left of the bear season, and hopefully bears are going to go hibernate really soon. There have been cases where bears actually don't hibernate if they still find attractants, right? And that's the worst possible scenario. It's not common, but it won't be the first time, and that's the worst possible scenario for us. The other issue is, up till last week, we're getting pictures of bears walking with bags of garbage. And there's pictures of bags of garbage in the forest and the trails where bears been snacking. And we have had a few reports of bears, of video cameras of people seeing bears. The bears are still around. They're still here. And, you know, these, as I've learned, and I've mentioned many times here before council, and one of the things I've learned in the last few years about bears is this whole idea of they learn behaviors and they repeat them over and over and over. And, you know, I no doubt that some bear that got his first meal this year, you know, on a certain area or street in Lions Bay, and then he got his last meal before he went to sleep in the same place. I think I know where he's coming back in the spring, and he's hanging around, he's digging around until he finds it. So we really need to break this cycle. I don't know how we do it. I mean, I don't have to tell everyone here. We destroyed 2 bears. Very, very disappointing for the Bear Smart Committee, or worse than training for some people. And upsetting for all of us, including me. So I just really want to make sure we do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And then nothing worse happens between now and the end of the year. And then next year we have a good strong start. So between now and the end of the year, you know, as we keep bylaw enforcement going on Thursday nights and Fridays. I saw your email that there doesn't seem to be, there's been 1 or 2 actions taken on a Thursday night. Not a lot. I'm not sure what's happening on Fridays. There's definitely reports of a lot of people that are putting out, not following the schedule we've got for limiting the time the garbage is at the curbside. I know that, and it's an open secret now, so I can even say it. I know it's not a bylaw. I know bylaw can't enforce it, but it did make a difference when they were at least going up there and trying to educate people, trying to tell people the impacts and trying to tell people what happened. So there was quite a few cases last week where there was people who put stuff out early on Friday. Sorry.
So the difficulty is that we're down to one bylaw officer. So if we have him come in on a Thursday night, he's not going to be available first thing in the morning, like early. It's going to be later in the morning. So it's no problem with the continuing the public works drop off early Fridays. But I don't know whether perhaps it's an idea or an opportunity for volunteers instead to be involved on a Friday morning, going around and sort of seeing what people are putting out at inappropriate times, or trying to educate them on, hey, you know, this is the time that your neighborhood's flock is supposed to be putting out its garbage, but he's not going to be available first thing in the morning on a Friday.
Any other
If
time
you can hear that.
that people could drop off garbage?
Well, I was just going to suggest that maybe he alternates it. I mean, he did the Thursday nights the last 2 weeks. You know, there's a few reports. The first one, there was less last Thursday, which is nothing. So this week, let's do Friday mornings and go to the areas that are later. We just maybe just use this time as best we can. And I don't, you know, other than, you know, parking, there isn't really much anything that's any more important than this, I would have thought.
So we end up taking garbage often to the dump. And is there any way that we can have some additional times or opportunities to drop garbage at the works yard, or if there's a bin that's very smart, like a big bin?
We did a lot of, we explored all these options. So at one stage, as you might recall, we had Friday mornings at the works yard and Saturdays at the works yard.
What time?
But we had issues with that too, with bears climbing over the barbed wire fence to get at garbage that was in the bubble. So all we did was move the problem, and then they knew.
Well,
But couldn't you get like at least a bigger bin?
Sorry,
Because I've got garbage in my living room every night, and I would love to have a place to drop it.
let me just talk to what Peter's saying. So the issues we had in the works yard were people were leaving the garbage outside the gate. Then they started throwing it over the fencing at appropriate times.
Yeah.
I think the people that went there at the right time, drove through the gate and got to put it in the bin, weren't creating a problem. So that
We
was,
also have limited space there.
Yeah.
That's an issue too.
okay, the space limits, the number of bins we got.
And, you know, the necessity of having a public works person there at all times during the period where you've got public drop off also presents issues in terms of the rest of the work that they're trying to do in the field. So it's a knock-on effect and hard to deal with, but hopefully, you know, one resident told me that you know, they had a trail cam that should have bear walk past it every day, and then the last 2 weeks there's been no bears walking past it. Hasn't seen a bear for 2 weeks, so hopefully they're off to La La Land for the winter.
Okay. Yeah, just a note to everyone, if you get input like information on that from residents, ask them if they're prepared to share it with Bear Smart and give us their information. The more information we get, the better. And if they are concerned, they're just sharing with us. We're just trying to see where the bears are. We're not sending bylaw around or calling the conservation office. We don't do that. Okay, so that's what I was trying to do is a minimum keep the Thursday nights and Fridays going. Now we're told there's only one person, so we'll alternate between Thursday and Friday. This week we'll focus on the Friday morning, and try and get that done, and hopefully be close to the end of the season. So I have a Bear Smart committee meeting tomorrow night. We have some new members that have joined Bear Smart. Very enthusiastic, and really want to get things done and coming up with an action plan. And we're going to explore that tomorrow night. I would also like to suggest that that Marcus joins me on the committee. He seems to have a very keen interest, and he could be there, you know, for some support, to support me, and be an alternate if I happen not to be around. That's what I'd like to suggest. But the big ask is council agree that we start to review and come up with suggested changes for the recycling bylaw around attractants, or alternatively even a standalone attractants bylaw. Committee's going to kick it around first. You know, there was been some had some observation and previous work, and we're going to get her input after the committees have this meeting. We're going to try staff and Meg meeting. I know we've got the budget. I think she's got 50 cents left, and whatever it was. Meg,
60.
but these are all things that will be happening to get us in a bit better place for next year. But I think the key weakness we've had is, and it's a really small percentage of people. We put these actions in place, and 98% of the people do what they can to comply. And if they can't, then we begin calling bear smart. And on one occasion, I went and picked up someone's garbage or found a way for a neighbour to help them. But there's just one or two people that, for some reason, don't want to comply or find it difficult to comply or don't quite get it. And so we need bylaws. It's unfortunate. We need to enforce it sometimes. It gets to the point we need to enforce it. And our current bylaws don't have enough teeth for the bylaw enforcement to do their job, in my opinion. So that's as uncomfortable a message it is, and as unpopular a message it might be. That's what I'd like to do. We'll obviously bring that back to council and to staff with our suggestions, and then there'll be bylaw amendments will happen, but we want to do them fast so that come springtime they're in place. We had spoke about timing that with the new contract for waste collection and what that might look like. Now that that's been delayed for another year, we can't wait.
No, but we do need to begin that process of updating that bylaw and having it ready for the tendering process in the spring.
We'll do that as well.
But what I was going to say was, my understanding is that Squamish has a new standalone attractant bylaw that I guess Meg probably had a lot to do with in terms of input. And, I had previously kind of thought, better to have everything all in one bylaw, but I'm kind of thinking maybe not. Maybe that is the way to go. I haven't really had a look at it yet. I haven't had a chance to do that, but maybe if you want to, if you're going to start looking at this with the Bearsmark committee, maybe take a good hard look at that for starters, and maybe that's the way to go. Focus on that, and then we can keep the other one clean in terms of what considerations we need to keep in mind for tendering and how residents move their garbage from the house to the street.
Overlap and there'll be synergy.
They will, yeah, they will somewhat, but in terms of education of having that bylaw as a standalone and clarity around enforcement and what you can and can't do, maybe that is a better way to go. But anyway, I think we should look at that.
All right, so we'll gather what others are doing as well. That will be one of the first steps. So yeah, I don't know if we need a resolution or if we don't, or if the council is just happy with me to keep going along these lines. I have their support. It was just a question of getting the support of council to keep moving with this.
I'd like to visit the bylaw that's in place right now, but I think looking at other villages or towns bylaws on Bearsmark, I think that's probably wise. See what's out there. So.
The garbage bylaw is in place now. It just says you can't put out anything in the curbside before 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
That's all it says.
Yeah. Okay.
And it doesn't have a definition of attractant. Like the jack-o'-lantern thing. Some people just want to put it out. There's no way bylaw can enforce them to do that. So that's the attractants part that we need.
Right. I wouldn't have even thought of the jack-o'-lanterns until you mentioned it.
All these years.
Yeah, like I had never even thought of it.
Show you enough pictures of bears eating if you want.
So I guess my only thought is residents maybe don't, a lot of times they don't know, not everyone's reading.
As soon as you think of it, as soon as it makes sense, it's perfect sense, but it's just it's one of those things.
I had actually made some notes, just because I want to support you and the committee, and I do like the idea of signage on municipal bins. I thought that was a good idea because it speaks to education. I think education is a real key part of this equation, is getting people to understand. Folks that are new to rural life or to bear country, they just may not know. So they're moving into a completely unknown space, and a gentle way to sometimes educate people is with you know, Winnipeg, we have this thing called a welcome wagon, right? Where the neighborhood stayed.
That's bad, Edwin.
Yeah, so welcome wagon is a really nice way to gently introduce people to the community and give them information, and a very smart education piece would be a really nice way to, you know, introduce that. You know, you live in bear country. Here's the things you need to look out for. I remember asking for some punchy graphics, and I don't know if there's still someone able to generate some punchy graphics.
Well, we had some produced, they're really good.
Yeah, and to share those on the neighborhood Facebook group, because, you know, pulling at people's heartstrings and getting into a simple message that says, you do this, so the consequence.
So what we've done, so I mean, we usually probably know, I've shared on sort of the village updates and other things on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
We've now created Be Smart Facebook page. So that same way as the store does it, and anyway, we tell how to do it finally. Same way as the store does it. So someone that has access to their account can post something on Facebook, and it comes up as coming from Lions Bay Be Smart. It doesn't come from the individual. The same way the store does all their stuff. So we've got that kind of setup. One of the things we've got one of the members, Sebastian, he's on Facebook and he's done some of the Facebook stuff, and he's the one that's doing all the tracking for us. But maybe what we need is one more person on the team that wants to just focus on keeping the same consistent message on Facebook. The brigade is getting on the other messages. So yeah, we could always do with extra help. So if someone that you think might want to do that part of it, by all means, to give us a shout.
Okay, that's great. Any other comments?
I just wondered if we have a way to influence the school and the kids with some kind of.
So we've been in the school last week. We did a session. We're going to do them possibly even twice a year. Meg's been out there with the kids.
Right on. Okay.
So we got that, and that was a program that was in place years ago for the wayside. So we got that back on track.
It's going to get the parents involved. That's a good one.
Okay. Kids are great.
Definitely. Okay. We okay to move on?
Sure.
Anything else?
Right.
No.
Looks good. Looks good in terms of you're going to bring.
Yeah, no, lots of great work there. Good job.
Okay, item 2 is I wanted to get ahead of the agenda. I wanted to get a question on there about portfolios, but that sounds like the mayor is moving along on that one. So that's what that was about.
Okay, and as I say, I'll distribute that, and it'll generate some more discussion, and we can go back and forth. So we have the committee of the whole get together. Okay, the Climate Action Committee, Norm, did you want to?
Yeah, so we're doing a term end report. We just wanted to have a complete handover package essentially to whoever the next committee might be. Because lots of good work was done, and it'll just set the stage for any kind of committee work going forward. I did have a question for Pam though. How much money do we have in the kitty again for climate action? We had
we had money for the grant application, but I don't know that there was an actual climate budget.
Okay.
It might be something to put in the 2023 budget.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good plan.
That's my notes way of saying, I don't think of anything.
I thought there was.
I'll have to double check actually, in all seriousness.
From something else.
There was an allocation for the study.
150K.
Yeah, no. At one point when we were applying for grants, we had budgeted our share, but it was for the EV charger and we weren't successful.
I thought, okay, I have to look back at the minutes.
Well, the newest grant is like annually, right? Like 30,000.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
I apologize. I thought you meant, yes, we do have the new climate. I think it's about 50,000.
Is it
And
50?
yeah,
Okay.
and I think we had talked about, it's just allocated based on population, and we had talked about,
Whether it could be.
yeah,
Right.
it can be. Sort of like the gas tax funding. So you say, we want to do solar heating in 2 years or 3 years, and we can put the money aside. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's.
I thought you meant a special climate committee
No.
budget. Yes. No, that's new this year. Thank you for the reminder. I'll look up the exact amount. We haven't got it yet.
All right, thanks, Pam.
that something the beach committee could leverage on?
Well, we'd have to see how we could use that. I think so that's why I was asking. So
Yeah.
we can get some bit more information at the next meeting on that and together with my report. And we can-
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
In terms of ocean rise.
Yeah. Something to do with that jetty, maybe.
Yeah.
Looking more greenhouse gas production.
Here.
Yeah.
We have a grant for that. You keep your money.
Okay,
Appointment.
let's see, Michael, we had you down on,
Right,
so
well,
did we
just-
cover that or do
Just
you want?
well,
to add
confirm
to it?
the mayor committees, the standing committees, you're going to be announcing those and the select committees. I think a lot of the committees are already in play, right? But I think it was great to hear the thinking in terms of the direction that we want to go. So that's great. And
Yeah,
I certainly have heard you putting out the call for volunteers to put their names forward if they're interested in being involved. So that's great.
definitely. And I've had, the odd discussion with counselors and,
Yeah.
and who's got interest in what areas not, so.
Now, my understanding is in terms of the formal formation of the committees, that is done in committee of the whole, or pardon me, in closed, because it is kind of a personing of committees,
Right.
placement of committees. So,
Well, you can establish what the committee is and
Right.
its terms of reference.
Yeah.
Who sits on the committee is what you discuss in.
Right.
If you've got
exactly.
10 people and you only want to have 6 on a committee, then
Yeah.
you've got to figure out. And so you do that in closed.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll definitely do that. As Marcus suggested, okay, emergency, excuse me. Emergency services. And Peter, do you have anything to comment on that? No, we get this every month. Nothing comes out of being. No comments on it, but just move to proceed. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And the RCMP monthly report. Yeah. So we get these every month, and it's divided into Highway 99 within the bounds of Lions Bay, and then so what happens on the highway versus what happens in village neighborhoods. And those are the paths. Venture to say that it's a little higher than normal. But it's just going off memory. And so normally so the author of this page here, Staff Sergeant Bradley, we normally meet with him, I and the mayor will meet with Staff Sergeant Bradley, or sometimes his superior, quarterly, to sort of chat about how things are going, talk about any issues, any ideas. And I think we had to delay the one that was scheduled for the quarter because it was right around the election date. So I think we just need to reschedule that. And so I'll touch base with them and maybe touch base with you on date that'll work. Okay. All right, any comments, questions? No, move to receive the report. Okay, second, all in favor?
Yeah.
Motion carried. Item 11, resolutions, was there?
Do we need to extend the meeting?
Yes, I need a note.
Oh, yeah.
10 o'clock, we need to.
Do we really need to do this? Please, tonight?
We need a motion to extend the meeting beyond 10 o'clock pursuant to our, read your brother?
So moved.
Before the motion to extend it to 11?
Yeah. You were asking ahead of time, do we need
Well,
At the end of the
if we're going to
items or-
1 hour, we're going to go back into closed. Do we need to do the feedback? What's my question? We'll talk about that next time.
Why don't we table that? Or do we need to
The
do
problem
this here?
is that we kind of need to get it passed by the end of the year. So if we only have, we've got December 6th. I guess we could defer it
And then
to
we've got
December
20th.
6th and the 20th for adoption. We want to do 3 readings as discussed.
All right, let's a motion to table this for the 6th.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, correspondence, I've got here November 10th, page 2. Peter, you want to update us on the correspondence?
So normally that would be yourself or assigning somebody, one of the other counselors to take turns doing, going through the correspondence.
On the previous term, what we did was, whoever was the alternate mayor did the correspondence, so you had to do it for 3 months. And then the person got it. You can do it any way you like.
Okay, Neville, I'm gonna put you in there.
And you actually did not speak, I was thinking, what am I saying to myself?
Explain that.
But I did actually read, actually read all of it, and I'm expecting that I might end up there, so it shouldn't be an issue. All right. That's good. All right, so. 271?
Page 269 of the index.
Okay, so the first one does have an action required. So there's a group that is going to be diving from Kelvin Grove. Which is an environmental sort of action. And they're asking if they could get free parking on the day. And I'm suggesting we extend the neighbourly hand and say yes.
Okay.
Can I move that?
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Sorry, what page are we on?
G1 correspondence. First one is G1, so the page, the first page, the actual report is 70. Yeah, the summary is in 269. The actual correspondence I'm talking to is in 271.
Okay,
That was parking passes for the day.
Okay. The next one on page 272 is someone offering to come give us a training session, 2-hour facilitated session on council sort of obligations, I guess is not the right word, council initiative around Aboriginal rights. So it's a local First Nation person that's with the Coast Salish Nation, Farmer Nation. So I read it and it looks like an interesting thing. I'm not sure what time would be appropriate for us. The timing and when we want to discuss these kind of relationships with our First Nation neighbours. But then it also crossed my mind, if we were doing this, why would we not do it with someone from the Squamish First Nation rather than the Coast Salish, to be honest? I think you should do it with your local neighbour or with the neighbour, the First Nation that has citizens in the area. So I think we should just receive it.
Yeah. I think Coast Salish is kind of encompasses the Squamish, but it sounds like this
I
first.
think so. Isn't Coast Salish up, is that Sunshine Coast area?
Okay, okay. I support it.
It'd be worth reaching out to Squamish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna park that one, receive it until this comes up. 279 is United Way. I think we should just receive this worthwhile charity. Know them well. I personally know them well because that company uses them a lot, but I don't know that we want to invite them to present to council. We should just receive it.
Okay.
Yeah. 281, Patrick Weiler, It's a youth council initiative. I think we should just receive it.
Would it be worth putting on in the village update?
I thought of that and you could, but the timeline that I thought was tight.
So November 20th, yeah, it's really tight.
Yeah, it's a bit tight. But maybe we can just, I don't know. Sure, I mean, I would think that, the local kids will probably hear about this through the school as well. I would have
Yeah,
thought.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be used to them.
Yeah.
The next one on Q83, another, Patrick Wilder, this is about a grant. An aquatic ecosystem fund grant, and I looked at it and thought, oh yeah, we can actually fix the floats on the dock, because I remember last year it came up that the floats on the dock are actually wrapped styrofoam, and we'd like to make them HDPE and get rid of that styrofoam. But the problem, Pam, is although it says they will do smaller grants from time to time, they're really looking at things around the $200,000 mark. So we'd have to have a pretty elaborate swimming room. I don't think that would be a bit of a stretch. Although maybe a phone call just to ask them, says, I have a request as low as 50,000 have been considered in the past. So maybe a phone call, it's worth it. And I can't think of anything else that we need to do. So 100% right? Yeah. I think it's 100%. Pretty sure it is. But the only thing that I'm aware of that I think is an environmental issue, the aquatic stuff is the styrofoam, the wrap styrofoam swimming ring. I don't know if there's anything around the work treatment. Because they're talking about big numbers, but maybe we could go back. But the application deadline is November 28th. So
one thing the marina had brought up was taking down pulling out the float and also those logs. And I'm not sure what the cost of that is, Peter. Somebody had thrown out the figure of 15 grand to remove those and take them out.
No, they remove it for us every season.
Yeah.
So we didn't do it last year.
No, and it was an experiment. Yeah, so we still have to do the full analysis, right?
Okay.
But yes, to answer the question, they always took it out for us, and it ranged in price from $5,000 to $7,000, and they would store it. A lot of that was for the storage. But no, we did an experiment this year and kept it in. To see, we knew there would be damage, but if repairing the damage was less than having it stored, and it was, I mean, it's always going to be a gamble because one winter could get destroyed, but we haven't done that analysis yet, but it's looking like it's come in a couple of $1,000s cheaper. But yeah, so it's the gamble. Do you keep it out?
Somebody had thrown the idea of getting sort of floats that were in segments that could be pulled out and reused again each year. But I was just thinking of the idea of how much money maybe be accessed or not, whether it would be worthwhile or not. So, but if it's 5 to 7, it may not be worthwhile.
Yeah, that would be hard, I think, for climate might be a hard push to say that was climate. I'll look at the definition. I'll bring back another report, just reminding everybody. I have to remind myself what we can use the money for. Because this was the first year of the program. It replaced the CAREP program. We used to get a refund of our carbon taxes, like minimal, and then they reintroduced this new program this year, and it's still in the early stages. We had to complete a survey, and we've been awarded this money every year.
All right. Sorry, Neville.
Okay. So the next one is page 24. Adoption Awareness Month. I think we should just receive that. And then the one that follows that, page 386. So this is a workshop put on by DFO. It's people might want to do, but you've got to register no later than the 1st of November. It's a 30th of November workshop. So you was interested, it seems to have some interesting stuff here to make their sponges, stuff on rock conservation around here. With any or somewhere.
It's a good idea because there's a lot of confusion about it.
Anyone want to attend?
So we just sign up ourselves.
Yeah, you can sign up online.
Okay.
Contact name. 290 is BC assessment, introducing themselves to us, and I think it's offering to come talk to us, or there's just an introduction. Josh Haley, so it was addressed to Ken and councillors. I think we should just receive it. I'm not sure there's anything specific we want to do as BC assessments right now. Or there may be sometime in the future. So let's just receive that one. And okay, so now we're into the resident stuff. That was all the non-resident stuff. So the resident stuff, as I said, there's quite a few things in here that are about the beach park. The first one is from Christy Pappas, I assume, talking about community engagement and tools for community engagement. She's asking there should be a community-led advisory committee created, help with some of this work. It's triggered by the beach park discussion, and we're not doing particularly well. This fear, I guess. I'm not sure if she's actually offering to be on that committee.
Could this be referred to that committee?
Right?
Could this be referred to that committee?
Sure
can.
Yeah.
Community engagement.
Right.
Referred to the committee putting together the December 1st.
Oh, right. I see what you mean. Okay, Ken, you got that one.
Yeah, I got that.
All right. All right. The next one was from Charlie Bradbury, I assume, around water restrictions. And there's another message a little later from Dan and Doug also about the same thing. So yeah, Peter, I don't know when this comes up, but sometime before the next summer, I think we need to have a discussion on water restrictions in general. I mean, I think it's alarming that we have, these, we went to this level four, yeah. And the water consumption just kept going up and up and up. And then you email some residents like this who are, making their kids take shower showers and, reusing the dishwater. I know, dishwater in our house, things like that were happening as well. Yeah, that we know there's people sprinkling their lawns in the middle of the night. And a few people have told me about that. And one of these emails here. The next one talk about a particular residence on Lansbury Avenue, when no one's home and the sprinklers were going on and we're not, So somehow we need to have a discussion about what can we do short of water metering, what can we do and how do, I know when I was knocking on doors running the election, on 2 occasions, I went to people's driveways and there's water running down their driveway and I had to ask them, probably lost a vote, because neither of them took it very well. But I told them, hey guys, there's a water restriction on your tap running. It was one case it was running down the driveway and the other one was just one of these hand hoses, hand sort of bills, but he picked the button on and it was just lying in the flower beds and the flower beds just flooded. So I think we really need to come up with some sort of action plan before the next water restrictions come around. So that's on those 2. I guess I can respond to those 2 and with some of the thanks for your concerns and that council will be looking at it in the future. That's acceptable.
Yeah, I think I did actually respond to Charlie. Because I think she said the same thing or something very similar to me or staff.
Okay. Anything else, Neville?
Oh yeah, we've got a ways to go. I'll try to talk faster. 9-6.
I wonder in the future if we have, one counselor sort of designated to respond unless there's something that really needs to
So
be consulted, say it was climate action and Norma was right in your alley.
But typically, that's what I'm doing here. So when I said I'll respond to these.
Yeah.
And then if it is something more appropriate, someone else like the previous one from you,
Perfect.
then I'll just direct it there. There was a question about the described as super cheap sign outside the village office, and I assume we're referring to the metal sign that says Lions Bay. This was also sent to staff originally, Peter, and later sent to council. Did someone on staff respond to that, or what was the purpose of the sign? Do we need it?
I thought the picture was of the actual lines there. on the
Oh, you
side.
think he's referring to that sign?
No.
Something else, this little
What's that?
orange thing? I think it's this little yellow and blue thing.
Well, it's the yellow thing, it's crooked and it's on a
Should
big.
we just remove it?
Yeah, and that's what's the purpose of it?
It was put up, I think,
Or
as part of the 50th anniversary.
Okay, should we take it down? We'll take that down. Is there any other deteriorating signs around the 50th anniversary? Probably the most obvious one. Okay. I'll respond to the resident. Next one is, so the next bunch of them, and maybe you don't need to, these all should be part of the record for the beach park. These are all residents. You go from he's one talking about, get the kids' thoughts into the playscape. He's got young kids.
Yeah.
There's one from Stephanie, who just wires the holder. There's one from Nicola Bradley, and then Marcel, once again, get it right, make it get in a timely fashion. There's one from Riley and Jason, I assume, with a few suggestions. That email does talk about different things other than just the beach park. There's a question about densification of water, and why should we be considering any densification if we don't have enough water? And there was a suggestion that we sort of double down and keep going on the pay for parking as a revenue. I can reply to that email with your thoughts and considerations and anything that I think is appropriate, but there's a particular line on the densification of water thing.
maybe mention that there will be a December the 1st meeting that they should attend or get involved in or something. If you want, if you want, they're going to see it anyway.
Okay. Another one from Noreen on the playscape. One from Penny, concerned about the material being used in recycled tire products. The environmental effect on kids. One from Tammy Lee McDonald, new resident, suggesting that that we negotiate a tree cutting discount on some sort of global scale. Or there's no global initiative, and then ask a question whether we could get grants to help cost of cutting trees. And so I should stick on those two. I can answer that. Council agree. I don't believe that as an idea it might be, I don't think there really is an opportunity for us to do that. I know a lot of people do advertise when they've got someone coming to do some tree work. You can get a half-day rate. If someone else is doing it, so I think that way of networking is the only way you're going to get anything out of that.
Lions Bay neighbors.
Yeah, our neighbours, and I think she's done that. So, unless anyone's got any other suggestions, I'll apply with that. And then she asks, is there any chance of getting a sewer system soon? And I think those of us have been around for a while know the answer to that. I'll answer appropriately and disappointed. Then two more in the beach park. Ryan Duffy, vote for us to go ahead. And then there was one from Nicola Cadwell. Also about some suggestion on the beach, but particularly brought up the idea of benches and more benches in areas, in tucked away areas, especially where, you know, for seniors to actually go enjoy the beach park. And mentioned potentially away from the noisy kid area. It's a good point. I mean, a lot of seniors aren't, you know, capable anymore of actually going down and sitting down on a beach now. But they would like to go to the beach park. So if we can design of getting some benches into shady spots under trees or whatever. I think there are some benches shown already. But maybe we just manage questions there. The material product, once again, a metal bench in the summer heat is that right material. So then those are a few more there. So you've got quite a few there you can roll into that into the town hall meeting.
All right.
Could I just mention
Yeah.
a couple here? Thank you, Peter. Peter updated me that regarding the James Mole letter, there were some issues with the letter in terms of some of the content in terms of it coming to council, but sorry?
That was any correspondence.
It wasn't,
No, that's
and it should be
it
included.
wasn't, okay, wasn't, oh, that wasn't included in. Okay, so
It's
Okay.
being handled.
it's just being handled. I was just gonna say that you, thank you, because it's being handled. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Can I make a comment here just on the resident letters? I mean, we seem to have a couple of groupings. One, of course, on the beach park, but the other grouping that I find interesting is, and that's worth bearing in mind, are the concerns which I'm sure many of us heard when we were out walking the streets about water and water supply and densification. And I'm also remembering Greg Weary stepping up on our previous meeting and advising us to keep a rural lens on situations and projects before us. And I think that's worth remembering.
Okay, good point. Any other comments on the letters? No, okay, we'll move on. And we'll certainly designate someone to look after those each time. And how did you do it in the past?
We just went in the same cycle as the alternate mayor.
Okay,
So I would be doing it till in the January, I think, November, December, January, and then it's.
Yeah.
No.
okay.
Yeah.
November, December.
Yeah.
No, Michael is not, so.
And of course, if there's something, I happen to read most of those anyway, or a lot of them, so I was aware of them, but that's great. I loved your summary. So I'm good with that. I think you were first on the list, Neville?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll let you look after that. Any new business? That's item number 14.
Yeah, Marcus's discussion regarding agendas.
Okay.
Yeah, the question I brought up, if my colleagues want to entertain that and give some thought to it, which was my point that I think that we, to fulfill our representational duties to residents, need to be in command and control of the agenda. And of course, there's a discussion on how that should be done. But I think it's of vital importance because it is the framework, the structure, and in some ways the stricture we work within. And I'd like to see us devoting some time, although the hour is late, perhaps not today, but in the future, or if we wish today, to having a discussion about the things that we want to see on the agenda. I'm sure council will, staff will have things that come up from time to time and that would be added. And perhaps staff could give us a draft copy of that and we could make some comments on it. And that this would then be out ideally a week ahead of time so that we and residents can study this and meaningfully participate in the governance of our village. I think that is an important burden of office that we have.
Marcus, I think that's well said. I even had some notes just on my own: deliver agenda and material 7 days in advance, input from council, final sign off on agenda by elected officials. And that was just my own personal notes. So I think we're perfectly aligned in that message. Any other comments from the councillors?
Just,
Well, there are comments, so when Marcus was talking, I was coming to my mind was we get to the end of the council meeting now. And obviously maybe do it tonight, but in the future we'll be prepared for it. And then we discuss what we would like to see on the next agenda in 2 weeks' time. And then if there's particular reports or Pam's got a deliverable, we'll start seeing lots of those in the budget cycle. Those will be fleshed out, and then we decide what else we want to. That was what I thought you were going with, Marcus. And then
Yes.
I think Ken had a slightly different take about getting the agenda a week ahead of.
I actually like what Marcus suggested. And perhaps, but not everyone may have items they want on that agenda, so it might creep. But I think 7 days prior to the meeting, we should be pretty fixed and be ready to go. Because I just think, this is a prime example here. We had almost 400 pages of information come on Thursday, and we had a long weekend. So, not everyone's in a position to set aside family time and other things. So, no, I love that suggestion, but do we want to firm up some plans and pass a motion on this now, or do we want to visit it at the committee of the whole, or the council likes to do?
Well, I mean, maybe it's a council report that comes with a proposal of what an agenda can look like. I mean, we're talking about restructuring the format, we have a typical 18-point agenda. We're talking about changing those points. Like it's a pretty well-structured format. Or are we talking about making changes to what gets presented within each person's or each group's section? I guess I'm not quite clear on
I think it's for that. I think Marcus is suggesting the subject matter. Would be discussed in advance. And I don't know, I'm sort of putting words in his mouth here. What I heard was, and then say if there's something that's council believes not that important, we can say, yeah, we don't need that next week, go down the track. Or for something council, more to the point, if council wants things to keep moving and be on the agenda, and then at the end of the meeting, they'd say, I'd like to see this on the next meeting, and then we can see if we all agree. That's kind of what I was taking away from that.
Yes, and I'm guessing that this is something that we need to flesh out a bit, and perhaps we don't need to do it now for the next meeting, but certainly at the committee of the whole meeting, we might want to discuss this and then have a plan going forward so that, again, that we are in command of the agenda as far as is possible.
I like that idea. Why don't we discuss in more detail at that time? Peter, had your hand up. Did you want to give us some input to think about?
Certain aspects of this. One is every councillor has the opportunity to submit information or report or something, make a request that something be on the agenda. That just has to be done by Tuesday or Wednesday. Deadline for sure by Thursday noon to get things on the agenda. And that's right in that procedure bylaw. To Neville's point, there's lots of places that have provisions in their procedure bylaw for notice of motion. So if you want something brought forward for the next meeting, and particularly if it's a substantive matter that might require some background information or some research, and particularly if it requires background information report from staff or anything like that, it's best to do that at the end of the meeting prior. So at the end of this meeting, like you say, be like a motion that, can we bring forward sort of an information report from staff regarding such and such a matter. I'm interested in exploring the potential to do whatever. And then that way everybody comes prepared to the meeting, both staff and council, to discuss that topic. It's on the agenda, et cetera, et cetera. And the other thing is with respect to the amount of time in advance of the meeting date that we put out the agenda. So normally we would put it out on a Friday afternoon for a Tuesday meeting, and that's also in the procedure bylaw.
if you go to something like a 7-day in advance, we're barely just, if we had a meeting 2 weeks prior, we're barely just finishing the minutes and the takeaways from the last meeting and haven't even had time to action any of them. And then we're preparing for the next meeting. So, I mean, I've got, comments that I'll bring later when it's appropriate in terms of the timing of meetings and so forth. But certainly, I think that we're currently at four days in advance. The city bylaw provides for 24 hours, but we do 4 days. And that's a struggle sometimes. Right now, it would be particularly a struggle because I don't have the staff that would normally do that. So, yeah, it's not good timing to be switching it up at the moment. And there are methodologies and opportunities for councillors to get things on the agenda. And normally, Ken, I would be sending you a draft of here's what I've got, say on Tuesday, Wednesday kind of thing, not the content of the reports, but here's what we're looking at bringing on the agenda. And then you can say, oh, okay, okay, well, I've got some other ideas too that I'd like to add, or Councillor Broughton mentioned to me about something. So can you touch base with him and make sure that gets on too? Stuff like that. So that's, okay, how we normally would do it.
Yeah. All right. Mike.
Yeah, well, I think the feedback loop with the mayor is a really important one. So I think that's good. And I don't know if that's reflected in the procedure bylaw, but
yeah, that's not 100%, but
I think that's one of the areas.
maybe one of the areas we want to look at. I think it didn't work. This agenda didn't work particularly well for us this time around, as everyone has been kind of inputting for a number of different reasons. And one was, we had more information earlier, that would have been fine. It was a long weekend, a number of things. But I think probably if the council had got it, there's someone on council that had a chance to input, that there could have been some things that could have been pushed aside, or that could have been left for another meeting. Maybe we wouldn't have had to take quite so much time on. But
Lots of great dialogue, and why don't we continue it at the meeting in the whole and flesh it out.
Totally support
back with
being proceeded.
Some suggestions, and we may have to look at the policies and procedures, and if there has to be some adjustments there or to accommodate it, so be it. Good. Okay. Okay. Anything? I don't think there was any other new business.
Can I make one further suggestion? I don't know about you all, but when I'm scrolling through a 300-page agenda, I think it would be helpful if it weren't one continuous document, but if attachments to it were in a linkable appendix, and the main document were a little more condensed, and then one could jump to indexed details as one is scrolling through it. So just to make it a little bit more user-friendly. I don't know if any of you were feeling that inclination or that desire, but that would be one observation I'd have as well.
You can actually do that. You just click on the button that's right to the left of the page number, and that'll expand the table of contents with linkable headings to each of the items.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, no, I think the idea is that the legal items are in appendices.
Yeah.
So if you just want to read it, you don't have to flick through.
Yeah, so if expand the table of contents here, then you just click on, say, renewal of crown lease, and it'll jump right to that page of the agenda. So that functionality is already there.
That's helpful.
Okay, that's great. I think at that time we'll move back to the public questions, a Q&A, and anyone that's still online receives a gold star. It's been quite an event, so we'll open up the lines if anyone has any comments. Okay, we're going to give just a few seconds because I'm sure most of you are off doing some chores and are running to get back to your computer before we cut everyone off and go back into the closed session. So once again, we'll ask, is there any final comments or suggestions? Okay. I think, people, as I said, get a gold star for staying this long or at least keeping their computers on, so. Why don't we move back into the closed session? If you want to, maybe. We did have someone that had up there.
Let's see, David.
No, was it David or someone else?
It was David Shore.
He's gone.
Oh,
Maybe he was just.
did you act on? He might.
I didn't know, I didn't ask anybody else.
No,
Do we need a resolution to go into close?
yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay, I think we're gonna move on. Okay, just unless we see somebody pop up here. Oh, he was clapping, not raising his hand. Okay, good enough. Helen Watterson put up. Thank you, Helen. Okay, do we have a motion to move into close? Okay, second, all in favor? Motion carried.
I need a minute to get-
Okay, this is the founder. It's just. Spot. Not that.
We taking a couple of minutes here?
Yeah, I think Peter just, trying to remove everyone offline.
Okay.
Did you, the motion to go into close?
Yes.
You know, since we're